Chapter 262. The wings on Hinata's back flapped rapidly, and she flew toward Pusher like an arrow. Hinata! Don't go. Sasuke's expression changed drastically, and he slashed wildly at Pusher with his sword. The Kusanagi sword slashed out repeatedly, and the fierce sword momentum was like a storm, slashing toward Pusher without stopping. Pusher's mouth curved into a sinister smile, and he waved the red light fishing rod to block Sasuke's attack. Clang clang clang. The continuous sound of weapons colliding rang out, and the densely packed sounds were continuous. In close combat, there was no doubt that Sasuke was stronger. However, Pusher could easily block all of Sasuke's attacks with his 6 Tomo Rinnegan. This was a contest of eye techniques. Pusher's physical skills were not strong, and his combat experience was far inferior to Sasuke's. However, Pusher had the power of the sacred tree and the 6 Tomo Rinnegan. In terms of hardcore strength, he was much stronger than Sasuke. Hinata continued to rush toward Pusher, and Sasuke frowned, looking extremely anxious. Pusher fought against Sasuke, while glancing at Hinata. Ha ha ha. Urashi laughed loudly, stared at Sasuke with playful eyes and mocked. This is Hinata's character, she's already hot-blooded. And she underestimates me too much. Sasuke knew Hinata's character better than Pusher. Since Hinata's debut, she had always been invincible, and she had won many battles with an overwhelming advantage. Over time, Hinata had developed a reckless personality. Whether it was the Hinata of this world or the Hinata of the future world, they all had this habit. However, the Hinata of the future world was very strong, and even if she was reckless, she could easily defeat her opponent. However, the Hinata of this world currently only knew immortal arts. He hadn't even activated his ocular technique, and he had to split his attention to maintain immortal mode. In this case, Hinata would be caught by Pusher. You were too careless. Pusher looked at Sasuke with a sinister smile. Sasuke was too worried about Hinata's safety, so he exposed a flaw in his attack. Pusher kicked him in the abdomen and sent him flying. While flying backwards, Sasuke's lips curled up slightly. Pusher only saw Hinata approaching him, but he ignored Sunflower, who was also rushing towards him. No, Pusher didn't ignore Sunflower. He sent Sasuke flying because he didn't want to give Sasuke and Sunflower a chance to work together to cast the sealing technique. Die! Hinata shouted and punched out with both fists. Immortal technique. Fist the size of a sandbag. Pusher flew into the air and smiled faintly. It's useless. At the same time, Pusher waved the red light fishing rod, and the red light hook attacked Hinata at an extremely fast speed. Chakra shot out from under Hinata's feet, and his whole body quickly flew into the sky, avoiding the attack of the red light hook. Pusher instantly accelerated and stopped Hinata in front of Hinata's flight path. Just as Hinata was slightly stunned, Pusher manipulated the red light hook into Hinata's back and into Hinata's heart. Hinata's whole body was stiff, and he couldn't even move a finger. Ha ha ha. Pusher couldn't help but laugh proudly. Compared to Hinata's chakra, Pusher actually wanted Hinata's eyes more. Tenseigan was an ocular technique that had never appeared in the Otsutsuki clan. The power of Tenseigan was not inferior to Rinnegan. And to some extent, Tenseigan was more powerful than Pusher's Rinnegan. At least Pusher couldn't use the truth-seeking ball. Pulling the red light fishing rod, Pusher instantly flew towards Hinata. Her chakra, her eyes, will belong to me. Pusher reached out and caught the hook, looking slightly stunned. Where's chakra? Behind Hinata, a big seal character flashed a few times. Seals were really the nemesis of the Otsutsuki clan. Pusher suddenly turned his head to look at Sasuke. Fortunately, Sasuke was far away from him. However, before Pusher could breathe a sigh of relief, a small hand suddenly pressed on his back. It was Sunflower. Sasuke's Plan 2 battle plan was to use Hinata as bait, let Pusher hit Hinata with the red light hook, and at the same time, use seals to resist Pusher's ability to absorb chakra. While Pusher was stunned, Sunflower had the opportunity to create a seal. Pusher's purpose of traveling through time was to capture Hinata's eyes. Seeing that victory was in sight, he would lose his vigilance in an instant. However, when the red light hook didn't catch Hinata's chakra, The sudden change from surprise to disappointment was enough to make Pooshur absent-minded for a moment. Sunflower's eyes had turned into the Tensigan, entering the chakra mode of the Tensigan. The power of yin and yang was launched at the same time, and 4 truth-seeking balls turned into rods and stuck in Pooshur's limbs, making him unable to move. Pooshur's body lost all color in an instant, and Rinnegan slowly closed, turning into the most ordinary Byakugan. Looking at Hinata coldly, Pooshur said lightly, "I won't let this go. Seal him like this." Sasuke roared and raised his hands above his head. Chibaku Tensei. Sasuke's Chibaku Tensei didn't need to release the black ball, but directly released the gravitational force with the target as the center. Hinata sprayed chakra into the air, far away from the center of gravity, and Sunflower was also moved out by Sasuke's heavenly hand. Pooshur was used as the center of gravity, and the earth continued to shatter and rise into the air, densely covering Pooshur. Hinata and Sunflower came to Sasuke's side, which was the blind spot of Chibaku Tensei's gravitational force. "Sunflower!" Sasuke roared, staring at Pooshur with his 6 Tomo Rinnegan. Sunflower also launched the Tensigan Dojutsu, using the truth-seeking balls as a medium to absorb Pooshur's power. An extremely strange thing slowly overflowed from Pooshur's body, and then disconnected from Pooshur's body, squirming into the most essential chakra, and flew toward Sunflower. The gravitational force continued. The earth rose into the air, forming a huge star. The yin-yang seal, the truth-seeking balls, and the Chibaku Tensei seal. With these 3 seals, Pooshur would never be able to escape again. Bang! 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 Just as the Chibaku Tensei seal was about to be completed, a few small balls flew out. Sunflower touched the truth-seeking ball with a distressed look on his face. He stuck out his tongue and said, "This thing can't be used anymore, hee. Urushi's chakra is gone, he can't come out anymore." When everything came to a standstill, a huge celestial body floated quietly in midair. Sasuke said lightly, "Sunflower, let's send Pooshur into outer space together." Sunflower nodded slightly. The 2 of them reached out at the same time, aiming at the asteroid formed by the Chibaku Tensei seal, and the asteroid slowly rose into the air, then accelerated into outer space, and disappeared in a short while. Hinata's heart was filled with envy. When will I be able to possess such power? My cosmetic contact lenses. Gulp. Hinata glanced at the chakra in Sunflower's hand. This thing should be edible, right? If he used the power of yin-yang creation, he might be able to turn this chakra into something like a tailed beast. The sage of the 6 paths seemed to have done this before, but eating it was more reliable. Chapter 263. Whoosh! The wind blew, and the earth was in a mess. The terrain within a radius of more than 10 miles was completely changed, the mountains were raised to the ground, and the plains also became a concave basin because of the gravity of the Chibaku Tensei. Looking up, there was not even a bit of green around. The trees in the ninja world were really the most pitiful. What should we do about this? Sunflower dragged the chakra in her hand and was somewhat at a loss. She didn't know how to deal with this kind of thing. Sasuke closed his Sharingan, slowly exhaled a turbid breath, and said lightly, "Such a big change has happened here. Shinobu's ninja will soon come to check. We must leave immediately." Glancing at Sunflower, Sasuke continued, "You take that thing first." After saying that, Sasuke took the lead and ran away. Hinata and Sunflower followed closely behind. Finding a cave, Sasuke took the chakra from Sunflower's hand and explained, "This thing is not a complete sacred tree. There should be a more powerful force in Pooshur's body." Hinata was a little worried when she heard this. "Pooshur won't break out of the seal, right?" Sasuke shook his head and said, "If there is no external help, Pooshur should not be able to come out." After a pause, Sasuke continued to explain. "The sacred tree is composed of the main body and chakra, just like the Geto Mazo and tailed beast in our world. We should have only extracted a part of the chakra from the sacred tree in Pooshur's body, and the main body of the sacred tree is still in Pooshur's body." Hinata nodded. This means that if someone absorbs the chakra and opens the Rinnegan, they can summon the main body of the sacred tree from Pooshur's body. Is it similar to the Geto Mazo? Sasuke nodded. It should be like this. But Pushur is not like Kagaya. He doesn't have the ability of immortality. Therefore, Pushur will die in the Chibaku Tensei. Hinata, you don't have to worry too much. Hinata couldn't wait any longer. He couldn't help but urge. Then how do we absorb the chakra? The most exciting part of running a dungeon wasn't fighting the boss, but the distribution of the loot after the boss was killed. The Sage of the Six Paths turned Kagaya's chakra into 9-tailed beasts, but Hinata doesn't want to become a Jinchuriki. Although Jinchuriki are powerful, in essence, they still rely on the power of tailed beasts. Sasuke slowly said, I need a portion of chakra to activate the power of Yang. And Naruto in our time and space also needs a portion of the power of Yin. We don't know how strong our future enemies will be. We have to become stronger as soon as possible. Hinata nodded in understanding. Then he asked curiously, if Naruto absorbs the Yin energy, would he open his eyes? Sasuke thought for a while and shook his head. The possibility is not high. Turning to look at Hinata, Sasuke continued, I want to give Sasuke in this world a portion of chakra. Maybe it will open his Mangekyo as soon as possible. But Uchiha's power comes from Kagaya's sacred tree. And this chakra comes from Pushur's sacred tree. There may be some differences between the two. As for Sunflower, she has already eaten the chakra fruit. Continuing to absorb chakra will only increase the amount of chakra. It won't have much impact on her strength. Sunflower nodded and said indifferently, Mom will prepare better for me. I don't need it. As for you, Sasuke looked at Hinata and said, Hinata, I will give you 3 portions of chakra. You can give some to Hayashi-senpai and Hanabi. You have seen Pushur's situation. Byakugan can not only evolve into Tensigen, but also into Rinnegan like Pushur. Hinata scratched his head and wondered. Pushur's Byakugan shouldn't have evolved. He should have just switched Byakugan to Rinnegan, not evolved into Rinnegan through Byakugan. Sasuke frowned. I don't know much about Pushur's situation. Let's not talk about this for the time being. Hinata, judging from the situation of the Otsutsuki clan, the Rinnegan and the Tensigen should not coexist. If you want the Tensigen, don't lead the chakra of the divine tree to your eyes, but absorb it through your body to further improve your sage body. Hinata made an okay gesture. I understand completely. Sasuke nodded and held the chakra in his hands. As if using some kind of power, the chakra was divided into 6 equal parts. Byakugan. Hinata opened the Byakugan to check. Although these chakra looked the same from the outside, there were still some subtle differences. It should be the difference in the ratio of yin and yang. 3 of the chakra floated into Sasuke's body. Sasuke took out 2 blank scrolls and drew some unknown seals on them, sealing the 2 chakra in the scrolls. Hinata. These 2 chakra can be given to Hayashi-senpai and Hanabi. But Hanabi is still young and can't participate in the war 3 years later. These chakra are more suitable for Niji. 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 Niji, Hinata shouted. I forgot about Niji. In short, you can distribute it yourself. Sasuke dragged the last chakra and handed it to Hinata. In this chakra, the yang energy is greater than the yin energy. Hinata, after you absorb this chakra, you may be able to improve your immortal body. Hinata took his share and asked impatiently, then what should I do? Sasuke said indifferently, don't you have macro muscle? When macro muscle passes chakra to you, you should be able to sense it. Oh. Hinata completely understood. He took the chakra and ate it in one bite. Chakra was the combination of spiritual and physical energy. But on the other hand, chakra could also be broken down into spiritual and physical energy. When the chakra entered the body, it would naturally change Hinata's body, and then be slowly absorbed by Hinata's body. Although a large part of the chakra would be wasted in this process, there was no good way to do so at the moment. Sasuke and Sunflower did not have the ability to condense the chakra fruit, let alone refine the power of the divine tree into an elixir like Otsutsuki Momoshiki did. Oh, as soon as the chakra entered the body, Hinata's stomach immediately bulged, and then his whole body began to swell. Just like when Uchiha-bordered soil first became the Jinchuriki of the ten-tailed beast, he could not control the chakra of the ten-tailed beast. Hinata's body began to swell rapidly. Sasuke hurriedly shouted, "Hinata! Quickly control the chakra." "It's here." Hinata spat out a few words with difficulty and calmed down to control the out-of-control chakra in his body. Thanks to Hinata's excellent control of chakra and the gradually awakened Otsutsuki clan bloodline, the out-of-control chakra quickly calmed down, and Hinata also returned to his original state. It was too dangerous. Hinata patted his chest, but there was still some lingering fear. Sasuke complained, "You were too careless. Do you think that chakra is the same as tricolor meatballs that can be directly digested?" Chapter 264. Hinata was indeed too careless. Even the Senjutsu chakra requires extremely strong control to maintain, let alone the chakra of the sacred tree. However, after absorbing the chakra of the sacred tree, Hinata has a more accurate judgment of the difference between the chakra of the sacred tree and the chakra of the sacred tree. In essence, the chakra of the sacred tree is not much different from the chakra of the sacred tree, but the chakra of the sacred tree seems to have some more power than the chakra of the sacred tree. Maybe it's vitality, or maybe it's some other power. Hinata's feeling is still a little unclear. It seems to be vitality, or it seems to be the power of yin and yang, or it seems to be both. Just now, the sacred tree chakra of the sacred tree lost control. Hinata's body was destroyed by the chakra of the sacred tree, but it was also repaired by the chakra of the sacred tree. But the chakra of the sacred tree doesn't have this function. If the chakra of the sacred tree lost control, Hinata is most likely to directly use game over. Thinking about it carefully, the power of the tailed beast seems to also have the function of healing injuries. And in the original work, Naruto once used the sage mode to perceive the situation of the Jubi, and only felt the vast natural energy as vast as the sea. Everything is clear now. Planting the sacred tree requires natural energy, because natural energy is the nutrient of the sacred tree. The difference between the ninja world and other worlds is that the natural energy of the ninja world is extremely huge, so it can directly give birth to the 9-tomo Rinnegan, which is the Rinnegan Sharingan. The purpose of the Otsutsuki clan planting the sacred tree is to control and absorb natural energy through the power of the sacred tree. Moreover, the sacred tree itself also has a strong vitality, and perhaps the power of yin and yang. This power will not only make the Otsutsuki clan extremely powerful in an instant, but also open the Rinnegan, which can control the power of yin and yang. The power of the Urashima seems to be much worse than that of the Nine Tails. Hinata calmly felt for a moment and said bluntly, "Although we only took a part of the chakra of the Urashima and divided it into 6 parts, I have seen the chakra of the Nine Tails and Ichibi. Compared with Kagaya, the gap between Urashima and Kagaya is too big." Sasuke nodded slightly and secretly remembered Hinata's words. He didn't have much interest in these things before, but since the enemy of Otsutsuki clan appeared, Sasuke gradually began to understand these things. Sasuke of the Shima Shinobi and Shima of the ninja world. I. Sasuke looked at Hinata and Sunflower and said, "When I come back, Sunflower and I will leave this world." Hinata and Sunflower looked at each other, and Hinata chuckled and said, "When I am strong, maybe I can go to your world to see you. It's not like we will be separated forever." Sasuke nodded and turned and walked out of the cave. Although it was the last time they would be together, Hinata and Sunflower didn't have the mood to talk about family matters. Sunflower opened the Tensigen and observed the changes in Hinata's body. Scratching his face, Sunflower said awkwardly, "How should I say it? In short, Mom's body is undergoing earth-shaking changes." Hinata complained, "Hey, don't tell me you can't think of an adjective?" Sunflower said gloomily, "I am only 12 years old, and I have to train as a ninja. How can I have time to learn those things?" Hinata showed a big smile and said proudly, "Although I can't see the changes in the body with the power of the Byakugan, I can guess. The chakra of the sacred tree is integrated into the body, and the body's cells are instinctively changing, evolving towards a higher level of life. But judging from Kagaya's sacred tree and Urastyle's sacred tree, the sacred tree is also divided into levels. Kagaya's sacred tree may be a qualitative change caused by a quantitative change, which gave Kagaya the ability to become immortal." Clap, clap, clap. Sunflower applauded vigorously and said with great support, "Mom is great. That's how it is." Hinata, do you think my 9 years of compulsory education were in vain? Although 99% of the knowledge has been returned to the teacher. Hinata continued, the most essential difference between the sacred tree chakra and the sage technique chakra is perhaps the vitality. The sacred tree chakra can be better absorbed by the human body, so the level of life can be evolved. No, the root of the sage technique chakra can't absorb it. At most it can be like the first generation, and cultivate the body of an immortal. And the body of an immortal is actually an ability passed down by Azura. Hinata suddenly realized that his previous interpretation of the body of an immortal was completely wrong. For example, a ninja like Jiraiya can never cultivate the body of an immortal, because Jiraiya lacks the most basic vitality. The reason why the sacred tree chakra can be absorbed by the human body is also because of its vitality. When the vitality is integrated into the body, the sacred tree chakra will naturally integrate into the body. And the yin and yang energy in the sacred tree will also integrate into the body along with the vitality, thus opening the Rinnegan that can control the yin and yang energy. Sunflower nodded crazily. So that's how it is. Mom's words make sense. I'm a super genius. After figuring out the nature of the sacred tree, Hinata was very proud at this moment. The biggest difference between Pushur's sacred tree and Kagaya's sacred tree may be the difference in the level of vitality. The sacred tree in the ninja world allows Kagaya to have the ability of immortality, but Pushur's sacred tree can't. The Otsutsuki clan crazily planted trees, absorbing, planting trees, absorbing, in order to make the vitality of a qualitative change caused by a quantitative change, so as to reach a higher level of life. Kagaya is really lucky. What the Otsutsuki clan couldn't do for many years, Kagaya did it with only one tree. The tailed beast in the ninja world is part of the power of Kagaya's sacred tree. Therefore, the tailed beast and Kagaya are together. As long as Kagaya doesn't die, the tailed beast will never die. After Hinata and Sunflower's world absorbed the power of the peach tree, she said that the power of the gold tree was useless to her, perhaps because she has already targeted the Jubi of the Otsutsuki clan. The Otsutsuki clan used the chakra fruit and dan to enhance their strength and increase their lifespan, relying on the vitality and yin and yang energy contained in the sacred tree. As for why the Rakudo Sannin brothers died of old age, in Hinata's view, the Rakudo Sannin is only the Jinchuriki of the Jubi, not like Kagaya, who is integrated with the Jubi, so it is normal for the Rakudo Sannin brothers to die of old age. Because Hinata's current state is that she is integrated with the chakra of Pushur's sacred tree. Perhaps because of the lack of absorption of the sacred tree, the sacred tree chakra's change to Hinata is a bit slow. However, the power of Pushur may only be able to extend lifespan, but not immortality. Hinata doesn't have much information now, so he can only explain it like this for the time being. To understand the true meaning of the power of the sacred tree, Hinata still needs to get Kagaya's sacred tree, or grab the Jubi of the Otsutsuki clan. Find a chance, I have to pull out the sacred tree from Pushur's body. Hinata touched his eyes. After opening the Tensigan's contact lenses, Hinata can use the Golden Wheel reincarnation explosion to split open the sealed Pushur's asteroid, peel off the sacred tree's body, and then completely kill Pushur. There is also the Pushur of this world that must be killed. The Pushur of the two worlds may be the same in power. If he absorbs the two Pushur's sacred trees, it may cause a qualitative change. Chapter 265. Hinata was now even more eager to get the power of the nine-tailed beasts. After the fusion of the nine-tailed beast chakra, it would be the ten-tailed chakra. This chakra was not of much help to Hinata, but it could let Hinata have a glimpse of the power of the ten-tailed beast. What was the difference between the power of the ten-tailed beast and the power of the Urushi? Hinata was now very curious. Time passed slowly. Hinata could clearly feel the changes in his body, the exuberant vitality, as well as the incomparably expanded immortal technique chakra. The first generation might have felt this way back then. The exuberant vitality in his body, the incomparably huge vitality, and the powerful immortal body. Hinata sat cross-legged on the ground, his right hand tightly clenched into a fist. It was already completely different. Hinata had wasted a lot of the divine tree chakra during the fusion process, but Hinata did not care about that little chakra. The most important thing about chakra was its level. As long as the essence of chakra was improved, a little more or a little less would not make a big difference, as long as it was enough to sustain the battle. The most important thing was the vitality, as well as the yin and yang forces that were integrated into Hinata's body together with the vitality. Only the power that was integrated into one's body was the power that truly belonged to him. The essence of chakra was the product of the combination of physical energy and spiritual energy. Only when the vitality and spiritual energy were strong could a larger chakra be created. Hinata's skin did not turn gray like the Otsutsuki clan, but it was much fairer than before. Even the sunflower was white and tender. Looking at it made one want to take a bite. Hinata got up and walked out of the cave. The sunflower followed behind Hinata. Huff! Taking a deep breath, Hinata put his right hand back to his waist. 8 trigrams. Empty palm. Boom! Hinata aimed at a tree and hit it with his palm. The powerful force instantly turned the entire tree into powder, and the aftermath began to spread in all directions, uprooting several surrounding trees. This is the immortal technique chakra. Hinata looked down at his hands. Hinata did not enter immortal mode just now, but he could use the immortal technique chakra. In other words, the power of the sacred tree was helping Hinata absorb the natural energy in the natural world to maintain sage mode. Without doing anything, Hinata was already in immortal mode. He couldn't even transform into a normal state. Too strong. Even though they were both in immortal mode, there was a clear difference in strength between the current Hinata and the previous immortal Hinata. Vitality could change the body, even the meridians and acupoints. The strengthening of his meridians and acupoints would allow Hinata to erupt with even more power in an instant. More importantly, if he were to enter immortal mode, Hinata would not only have to divide his attention to absorb natural energy, but he would also have to divide his attention to maintain the stability of chakra. But there was no need for that now. Now Hinata could use all his energy to fight. The power of the sacred tree would naturally help Hinata absorb natural energy and fuse it with his own chakra, transforming it into the immortal technique chakra. But if I were to control it myself? Hinata suddenly thought of something. The Otsutsuki clan was born with great power. They could constantly become stronger and extend their lifespan by absorbing the power of the sacred tree. So they wouldn't study how to use chakra like ninjas. Because of this, the ninja world gave birth to the sealing technique, the nemesis of the Otsutsuki clan. And the sage mode was also a product of the ninja world. Hinata began to actively absorb natural energy and control it. Dash. If someone could see natural energy, they would see the natural energy in the natural world madly converging towards Hinata like a whirlwind. Hinata's body was like a black hole, endlessly devouring this natural energy. Feeling that it was about time, Hinata suddenly burst out this power. Boom boom boom. With Hinata as the center, a surge of natural energy erupted. The huge force pushed everything away, and there was nothing within 100 meters. Even Sunflower had to take a few steps back before he could stabilize himself. This is simply the natural energy version of Shinra Tensei. Hinata's heart moved, and a huge blue chakra skeleton covered Hinata's body. Without distracting himself to maintain the stability of chakra, Hinata could control it more easily. The form of the chakra skeleton has condensed into the upper body. Even the head and arms are lifelike, and the joints are clearly visible. Even the pirated version of Susanoo can do this. The chakra skeleton pointed its hands at the sky. The spiral light beam of the magical beam cannon shot out in an instant, and the spiral chakra light beam with a diameter of 1 meter went straight into the sky and finally dissipated in the sky. Invincible in the shinobi world. Hinata felt that his current strength was enough to fight Pain alone. Although Pain was defeated by Sage Naruto in the original work, Pain's defeat was not because his strength was inferior to Sage Naruto, but because when he fought with Naruto, he couldn't use Tendo's ability. Compared to Pain, Hinata is stronger in chakra, and Pain is stronger in Rinnegan. Nagato divided the ability of Rinnegan among 6 people, which is tantamount to weakening his strength. In a one-on-one fight, Hinata feels that his probability of winning should be higher. But this kind of thing is hard to say. At present, Hinata is just the sage Hinata with a larger amount of chakra and stronger physical fitness. In essence, he is still in sage mode. However, the strengthening of the body also allowed Hinata to get rid of the restrictions of age, and his taijutsu has further strengthened. If Hinata uses his full strength, he may have the power to fight against the first-generation sage and the Rinnegan Eye, but the probability of defeat is very high. This is the gap in technique. Hinata has to admit that Pushur's strength is indeed very strong. In terms of hardcore strength, Pushur is much stronger than Sasuke. However, Pushur has been using the same few moves over and over again, and has always been relying on dojutsu to fight, and he hasn't developed his own ability at all. Mom is so powerful. Sunflower was overjoyed and asked excitedly, "Mommy, has your dojutsu awakened?" Dojutsu. Hinata touched his eyes and said while feeling the changes in his body, "There is a little change, but it will take a while." "Too powerful," Sunflower said happily. "When Mom opens Tensigen again, I won't be your opponent at all." Hinata said with a straight face, "Sunflower, you ate Jinshir's chakra fruit. It is reasonable to say that you should be stronger. Is it because you didn't practice hard?" Sunflower lowered her head in embarrassment and said shyly, "I am still young." Hinata shook his head slightly, and was too lazy to care about her. When Sunflower returns to her world, Hinata of that world will deal with her. Let's go back first. After testing his strength, Hinata was already satisfied. I still need to complete the final transformation, and it will take a little more time. Sunflower nodded obediently. Chapter 266. The sun was setting and the moon in the east was shining brightly. The light in the forest was dim and sad at the same time. Hinata, Sasuke and Sunflower stood in the forest. Sunflower had activated the relic, and a dimensional portal had been opened. It was the path that Sasuke and Sunflower had left. "Mom, I'll see you again." "Yes. Goodbye." Hinata and Sunflower hugged each other tightly. Although they had only been together for a few days, Hinata was reluctant to part with him. When Sasuke followed Orochimaru, Hinata was not reluctant to part with him. When Naruto followed Jiraiya for a trip, Hinata was not reluctant to part with him. However, when he parted with Sunflower, Hinata was sad. Perhaps they were related by blood. Sasuke said, "Sunflower, it's time for us to go." Sunflower nodded and let go of Hinata. He took a few steps back and looked at Hinata with his big eyes as if he wanted to remember everything about Hinata. After a while, Sunflower turned around and walked towards the dimensional portal. Sasuke looked at Hinata and nodded. "Hinata, goodbye, goodbye." Looking at Sunflower's slightly lonely back, Hinata's eyes flashed with a smirk. "All right. Sunflower, Mother will give you a farewell gift." Sunflower turned around and asked happily, "What gift is it?" Hinata's supercilious eye seemed to be shining. In the black and white world of supercilious eye, Sunflower was standing still and looking at Hinata. He activated his supercilious eye. In the black and white world of supercilious eye, a black and white shadow of Hinata appeared out of thin air. He pinched Sunflower's chubby face and twisted it. Phew! After exiting the supercilious eye, everything in the real world returned to normal. Sunflower stood there stupidly and looked at Hinata curiously. "Mommy, what gift is it?" Ouch! Just as he asked, Sunflower suddenly covered his face and cried out in pain. He looked at Hinata pitifully with tears in his eyes. Hinata smirked and said, "I've already left a mark on you. It hurts, doesn't it? The pain will make you remember me." Sasuke looked at Hinata speechlessly and said, "Hinata, your supercilious eye is the same as Koto Amatsukami. You. What the hell?" Hinata almost went crazy when she heard this. Supercilious eye could only be activated once every 10 years? He remembered that in the original work, Bo's pure eye seemed to have the ability to predict the future. Wasn't he able to use it as he wished? Supercilious eye seemed to have used it to predict the location of the Mapura space teleportation. Supercilious eye also has the ability to predict the future. Why does my ability need to be activated once every 10 years? Is it because I can attack in the foreseen future? Hinata was dumbfounded. Does this mean that I use my supercilious eye that can only be activated once every 10 years to pinch Sunflower's face? That's too much of a loss. Sasuke looked at Hinata and said calmly, Hinata, did anyone tell you that your personality is very similar to a conch? What do you mean? Hinata was a little puzzled. Sasuke chuckled. You look as quiet as a conch, but when you put it next to your ear, you can hear the sound of waves. Hinata. Who said that? Hinata's murderous intent rose. Sasuke faintly said, You in our world. Sunflower glanced at Sasuke and said with a face full of contempt, Sasuke-san is lying. Mom's supercilious eye can be used at will. That's a matter of later. Sasuke explained, when you first awaken your supercilious eye, you can only activate it once every 10 years. Hinata asked in a daze, then what should I do? 10 years later. Hinata calculated that 3 years later, the Fourth Shinobi World War will begin. 10 years later, everything will be over, and peace will be restored in the shinobi world. What use do I have for supercilious eye? Sasuke faintly said. But you have now absorbed Urashima's chakra. You are different from the you in our world. Hashirama's cells can shorten the cooldown of Koto Amatsukami. Perhaps Urashima's power can also shorten the cooldown of future foresight, but you need to judge for yourself. Hinata nodded gloomily. For the time being, this is the only thing he can do. Hopefully, the cooldown of supercilious eye can be shortened. Sasuke turned to look at Sunflower and said faintly, Let's go. And Sunflower looked back at Hinata and waved. Mom, we are leaving. You must miss me. Goodbye. Hinata waved goodbye. Sasuke and Sunflower entered the space-time channel. The channel slowly closed, and everything returned to normal. Hinata stretched and moved his body slightly. The experience of this period of time is very magical, but whether it is Sasuke or Sunflower, they are not people of Hinata's space-time. They are just passers-by in Hinata's life, and everything they have doesn't belong to Hinata. What Hinata can do now is to cherish everything in this space-time, and cherish everything he cares about in his heart. Hinata reached into the ninja bag. There are 2 scrolls with Urashima's chakra. This is the biggest secret in this world. Dada and Hanabi. No, it should be Niji-ni-san. The Hyuga family is about to change. Hinata can't judge whether this change is good or bad. Of course, it is a good thing in a short period of time. The Hyuga family's strength will be enhanced, whether it is in the village or in the whole shinobi world. The status of the Hyuga family will be improved. But in the long run, this matter will definitely attract the attention of the whole shinobi world, and everyone will focus their attention on the Hyuga family. Once Hinata and others are gone, the Hyuga family will inevitably end up in the same situation as the Uchiha clan. But these things will be left to Hyogo to worry about, at least for a few decades. These burdens won't fall on Hinata's head. Sigh. Hinata calculated the time. There are only 4 days left until his birthday. But the Wind God and Thunder God will take at least 7 or 8 days to come back, so this birthday can only be celebrated by himself. The work of a ninja is really hard. He doesn't know if he can still receive a birthday gift when he goes back this time. If only I can return to Shinobu before the new year. These 2 scrolls of chakra will be a New Year gift for father and sister. It's Niji-ni-san. Hinata scratched his head in distress. He seems to have forgotten Niji's existence recently. Is it because his sense of existence has decreased? Jumping on a tree, Hinata opened the Byakugan, found the nearest town, and ran in the direction of the town. Anyway, there is no important task. Hinata won't treat himself badly. Chapter 267. Future Prediction. Future Prediction. After a delicious meal, Hinata soaked in the hot spring and silently analyzed his newly awakened dojutsu. Hinata has always believed that all ninjutsu have flaws, and there is no perfect ninjutsu in the world. If you can't find the flaws of a ninjutsu, it's because your analysis ability is insufficient. If you can't break the opponent's ninjutsu, it's because your own ability is insufficient. And Hinata's future prediction, dojutsu also has flaws. If you want to prevent the flaws of your ninjutsu from being used by the enemy, you must first understand your own ninjutsu, and then carry out targeted defenses. In Hinata's previous life, everything can be interpreted scientifically. And in the ninja world, all ninjutsu can also be interpreted using chakra. When a person has the thought, I want to eat in their mind, they will eat. And when the thought of I want to eat is born, eating is the person's future. When a person's brain has a certain thought, the mental energy will fluctuate. The Byakugan's dojutsu can see through chakra. And chakra is full of physical and mental energy. When the Byakugan's dojutsu is enhanced, it can see through the mental energy fluctuations of the opponent. And then through the mental energy fluctuations of the opponent, it can analyze the opponent's thoughts with dojutsu and determine the future that the opponent wants to create. This should be the so-called future prediction. And Hinata can use dojutsu to cause substantial damage to the enemy's body in the future. If it's interpreted using chakra, this is also very easy to understand. When Hinata uses Byakugan's dojutsu to see through the opponent's mental energy fluctuations, he can leave his own chakra in the opponent's mental world through dojutsu. When the dojutsu left in the opponent's mental world is activated, the chakra that belongs to Hinata in the dojutsu will also be activated, causing damage to the opponent's body. In essence, all jutsu that can foresee the future are judged and predicted through the traces of chakra. In scientific terms, it's dojutsu. Foresight, on the other hand, was to use his eye power to predict the future that the other party wanted to create through the mental power fluctuations of the other party. Of course, in order to achieve this, the power of the supercilious eye and the power of yin and yang were indispensable. Although this move looked magical, it wasn't that magical after it was deciphered. Breaking Hinata's eye technique was actually very simple. All one needed to do was have enough power to block Hinata's eye technique. In today's ninja world, there are many jutsu that can hide from ordinary Byakugan. Even if the power of Hinata's Byakugan has been strengthened, there is still a power that can resist it. However, even Hinata couldn't think of any technique that could resist his eye power. But the eye power of Rinnegan may be able to resist this move. However, when Hinata's eyes evolve into the Tensigen, the Rinnegan should not be able to resist his dojutsu. Crash! Hinata wrung out the water in the towel, folded it, and placed it on his forehead. Although his strength has increased greatly recently, Hinata still has an accurate judgment of his current level under calm analysis. The chakra that Hinata uses is still the Senjutsu chakra. This has not changed. It's just that Hinata doesn't need to actively absorb natural energy now, nor does he need to be distracted to maintain the sage mode, so he is free in terms of control. In terms of physique, Hinata is now stronger than Senju Hashirama's sage mode. But physical fitness is mainly reflected in taijutsu combat, and there is no bonus to ninjutsu. And because Hinata's body has not fully developed, Hinata is far from reaching the peak state that he can reach. Based on this analysis, Hinata is stronger than Sage Naruto in terms of hardcore strength, and similar to Sage Hashirama's strength. Then the next thing is the application of jutsu. In the case of the temporary cooldown of the Byakugan, all of Hinata's ninjutsu are developed based on the gentle fist system. However, thanks to the fact that Hinata doesn't need to actively absorb natural energy now, and Hinata has once cultivated the sage mode, so Hinata can control natural energy in nature and use it to attack the enemy. The use of natural energy needs to be developed. Well, now I can be a confidant and know the enemy. It's not that Hinata is bragging, but Hinata has memorized the information of most of the ninjas in the ninja world. Especially those ninjas who may be enemies, Hinata knows their information like the back of his hand. Cannon fodder aside, the strongest ninja in the ninja world should be Pain. But after all, he hasn't really fought with him, so Hinata doesn't know who is higher between him and Pain. The Rinnegan's dojutsu is still very magical. As for Sage Jiraiya and Orochimaru, Hinata said that he doesn't care at all. Who care? The only thing that the ninja world needs to be wary of at the moment should be Itachi Uchiha's Totsuka sword. Fuinjutsu can be said to be the most unreasonable power in the ninja world, but fortunately, Itachi Uchiha is not an enemy. Maybe Inoki's dust release also needs to be paid attention to. As for the others, splash. Hinata got out of the water, raised his hands and cheered. Finally, I can let go of myself. At least before the Jubi's Jinchuriki comes out. Hinata dares to stand at the top of the ninja world and shout. Who else? I'm not targeting anyone. The most afraid thing is that the air suddenly became quiet. Fortunately, this is a high-class hot spring hotel. And the hot spring is also private, otherwise Hinata will be embarrassed to death. There must be a limit to Chinibu. Hinata got back into the hot spring pool, only leaving his small head outside. The next thing is to plan for the future. Cooperation with Black Zetsu is still necessary. Hinata has too many restrictions in Shinobu, and he can't abandon his family, so the task of collecting bijou can only be handed over to the organizations. Then let Black Zetsu take the opportunity to steal a part of the bijou's power and give it to him. However, Black Zetsu and Otsutsuki Kagaya still have to be vigilant. After all, the future Sasuke said before that after the future Hinata returned to the ninja world. He said that he and Kagaya had a falling out. After his own analysis, Hinata believes that the purpose of returning to the ninja world in the future should be to seize the Jubi. But this is just speculation. Naruto of the future world is still alive. This means that the future world's Otsutsuki Kagaya didn't take back all the bijou. And Otsutsuki Kagaya only has one Jubi. That's the complete Jubi. However, the future Kagaya has the body of the Jubi, the Geto Mazo, and part of the bijou's chakra. She is already in immortal existence. What Huey needed was strength, not to prolong his lifespan. But anyway, Black Zetsu and Kagaya still need to be vigilant. Chapter 268. December 27th. Happy birthday, Otsutsuki Hinata. Hinata sat alone in the private room of the restaurant, cheering. Although it's not as lively as in Shinobu, it's also less cumbersome etiquette. As the heir of the Hyuga family recognized by Hyogo, Hinata used to have to deal with not only his family members, but also other ninja clans, and some nobles who have a good relationship with the Hyuga family. After a whole day, Hinata can be said to be physically and mentally exhausted. It's easier to be alone. Having said that, only someone like Hinata, who had a happy family, would be able to say something like that without feeling any pain. And orphans like Sasuke and Naruto, when they are alone, they may only feel loneliness and loneliness. No longer thinking about these annoying things, facing the table full of delicious food, Hinata began to eat. On December 29th, the last day before the new year, Hinata met Raikami and Fujin who returned near Shinobu village. Knowing that the new year is coming, he didn't ask Raikami and Fujin to escort him on the way back. Of course, Wasabi is still in Sasuke's genjutsu. In Wasabi's eyes, Hinata has always been by his side. With Raikami and Fujin, Hinata finally returned to Shinobu in the evening. After sending the two fat men back to the Hyuga residence, Hinata rushed to Naruto's office alone. Hurry up and give me a task that can kill me, whether it's assassinating Tsuchikage or Reikage, even destroying the base of the organizations. I'm full of myself. Tsunade. I can see. You are really full of yourself now. Tsunade pointed to the water stains on the table and said lightly, because of your impulse, this cup of tea spilled out. As Naruto's secretary, Hinata, not only do you have to clean my desk, you also have to make me a new cup of tea. Hinata. I'm already invincible in the shinobi world, and you dare to order me to clean your desk? Do you see my little fist? Phew, Hinata exhaled slowly and said expressionlessly. Is there no mission that can send me to my death? Tsunade said indifferently, there is indeed. As the female lead of the movie, your fans from all over the world have come to Shinobu and have given you dozens of designated S-rank missions. Hinata. Glancing at Hinata, Tsunade snorted. After the village's discussion, you need to hold a fan meeting in Shinobu on the first day of the new year to meet your fans. The mission level is C-rank, and there are 53 C-rank missions. Hinata was relieved when he heard this. Although the reward for an S-rank mission is higher, Hinata doesn't care about money anymore, and it's good to complete the mission as soon as possible. Hinata. I'm not interested in money. I've never touched money. By the way, the mission report is... Stop. Tsunade stopped Hinata's idea of reporting the mission and said lightly, I'm not interested in your mission. If there's nothing else, go home and rest as soon as possible and prepare for the Jonin assessment. After a pause, Tsunade continued. And, a few days ago, there was a ninja battle somewhere in the Land of Fire. The scale of the battle was very large, even the landscape was changed. The village has sent several teams of ninjas to investigate, but the investigation has made no progress. According to the existing investigation report, the scale of this battle is no longer at the level of ninjas. Maybe the two sides have reached the level of my grandfather. Speaking of this, Tsunade's face was extremely dignified. Although the best time for investigation has passed, but such a strong ninja has appeared in the shinobu world. It's impossible for our shinobu not to respond. Not to mention they are fighting in the Land of Fire. Hinata, this investigation is also counted as part of your Jonin assessment. Oh. Hinata nodded again and again, but he was thinking about what kind of reason he should make to fool Tsunade. Well, you go back and rest first. Yes. After returning to the Hyuga residence, Hinata rushed to Hyogo's study. Father, you can finally take off. Hyogo. Come and sit. Hyogo's expression was calm, and he said indifferently, What happened during this mission? Great news. Hinata said happily. Father, look at this. While talking, Hinata took out the scroll of Urushiki chakra from the ninja tool bag and said in a low voice, Father, have you heard? There was a big battle in the Land of Fire a few days ago, and the scale of the battle was very big. Hyogo nodded slightly. I heard the battle was very big, but the village didn't find anything. But the ninja who can cause such destruction is not someone ordinary ninja can investigate. Could it be? Hyogo suddenly got up and said with a shocked face, Hinata, is this incident related to you? Hinata stretched out a finger and put it on his lips. Shoo, glancing at Hyogo, Hinata complained. Father, such a big thing, can't you keep it down? Hiss. Hyogo sucked in a breath of cold air. Although Hinata didn't directly admit it, listening to Hinata's words, this matter is obviously related to Hinata. What the hell is going on? Hyogo said seriously. This matter is not trivial, and it has attracted the attention of the entire ninja world. Only a tailed beast would be able to do something like that. However, the results of the village's investigation show that it should be a ninja who was fighting at that time. Hinata, you know what this means? Hinata was stunned. What does it mean? Hyogo said seriously. If this person can be killed, then he will become the public enemy of the entire ninja world. The 5 great ninja villages will not allow such a threat to exist. Hinata asked again. What if he can't be killed? Hyogo frowned slightly, and after thinking for a while, if the other party is too strong to be killed, then there is no way. Hinata said oh, and thought about it seriously in his heart. At present, Hinata is still a shinobu ninja. Even if his strength is exposed, he will not become the public enemy of the ninja world. At least, shinobu is still Hinata's strong backing. As for the power of the other villages, Hinata is a ninja who can fly. Only Pain and Inoki can pose a threat to Hinata. In addition to these two, even if the other side sends tens of thousands of ninjas to besiege Hinata, Hinata can still retreat calmly from the air after killing most of them. Moreover, Pain and Inoki's flying speed may not be faster than Hinata's. At least their endurance is not as good as Hinata's. Nagato was too weak, and Inoki was too old. Well, Invincible is right. Hinata didn't care and said, Father, this is what I want to talk about. This scroll can make you stronger. Chapter 269. This scroll. What is sealed in it? Looking at Hinata's mysterious look, Hyogo guessed that there must be something extraordinary sealed in these 2 scrolls. It's just that with Hyogo's imagination, he couldn't think of anything that could make him stronger in an instant. Hinata winked at Hyogo and said in a low voice, What is sealed in it is chakra that is similar to the tailed beast. Tailed beast? Hyogo frowned and wondered. Is it to become a Jinchuriki? No. Hinata stretched out his right index finger and shook it gently, then clenched his fist and put it in front of his mouth and coughed, looking serious. This chakra is still different from the tailed beast. Well, how should I put it? In short, the tailed beast is a chakra that has wisdom and self-awareness, But the chakra in these 2 scrolls doesn't have wisdom and self-awareness. This chakra can be absorbed by humans and become a humanoid tailed beast similar to the tailed beast. Although Hinata has been evasive, Hyogo has more or less understood. Absorbing the chakra in the scroll can make humans become a life form similar to the tailed beast. It seems that the chakra in these 2 scrolls can indeed make people stronger in an instant. A humanoid tailed beast? Hyogo murmured, but in his heart, he was thinking about the pros and cons of this. Hinata continued to explain. But the chakra in the scroll is still a bit different from the tailed beast in our world. Even if you absorb the chakra and become a humanoid tailed beast, you can't be immortal like the tailed beast. If you are killed, you are really dead. You can't be resurrected. Hyogo nodded slightly when he heard this. This is more reasonable. Hinata, have you absorbed the chakra? Yes. Hyogo sized up Hinata a few times. From the outside, Hinata didn't seem to have changed much. He was just a lot more confident than before. Supercilious. It's just that. Hyogo's face was full of shock, and his forehead was sweating slightly. This chakra, Hinata chuckled. What do you think? Isn't it amazing? Taking a deep breath, Hyogo slowly calmed down and asked, Hinata, what happened? Hinata scratched his head. In short, a life form similar to a tailed beast appeared, but it had no intelligence or sense of self. In the end, I sealed it. It was not easy to explain the future to Hyogo in detail, so Hinata could only vaguely explain. Hyogo didn't probe further. Everyone has their own secrets, and rashly probing into other people's secrets is most likely to hurt the relationship between the two. Hinata even told him about her relationship with Nine Tails, but chose to hide this matter. Obviously, this matter has a wide range of implications, and it is not something that a ninja of Hyogo's level can understand. How do you absorb this? Hyogo asked. And these 2 scrolls, Hinata explained. One of them is for father, and the other one I want to give to Niji Gige. Niji? Hyogo pondered for a moment and said lightly, the other one is for your sister Hua Hua. Hinata. Sure enough, no matter how close his brother's son is, he is still not as good as his own daughter? Hinata nodded lightly and didn't refute Hyogo's opinion. Anyway, there are still many Yura-style chakra, and he can find an opportunity to draw some more in the future. Giving one to Naruto is also a good thing, and adding one more Niji is nothing. That's right. Hinata suddenly thought of something, and his eyes flashed with excitement, and said excitedly, Father, ever since I absorbed the chakra, I haven't fought with anyone, and I don't know my current level. Why don't we give it a try? As if afraid that Hyogo would refuse, Hinata added, Father, please rest assured, I will be very gentle. Hyogo. After a moment of silence, Hyogo slowly got up and said lightly, Okay. You agree? And Hyogo also wants to see Hinata's current strength, although it may be dangerous, and he may even lose his life if he is not careful. However, understanding Hinata's strength is also convenient for Hyogo to make some judgments. Coming to the practice room, Hyogo set up the starting posture of the gentle fist, and said lightly, Come. Then I'll go. As soon as he said that, Hinata's palm hit Hyogo's abdomen, and Hyogo's whole body flew out, rolling a few times on the ground, and finally hit the walls of the room with a bang. Sprawled out on all fours. Just as Hinata said before, Hinata was actually very gentle. Hyogo only felt a slight pain in his abdomen, and although he flew out in a very awkward posture, the inertia of flying back did not even break the wooden walls of the room. So fast. Until now, Hyogo finally had the chance to say this sentence. Father, are you okay? Hinata ran to Hyogo's side with a worried face, carefully helped Hyogo up, and then stood obediently at the side, like a child who had done something wrong, with his head lowered and not a word. Tidying up his clothes, Hyogo said lightly, I'm fine. Hinata looked up and asked curiously, Father, did you really not react? Shaking his head slightly, Hyogo explained, It's not that I didn't react in time, but my body slowed down a lot in an instant, as if the air around my body had solidified. I might as well give up resisting, and test your ability. Hinata's eyes were a little strange. Was Hyogo puffing himself up at his own cost, or was he telling the truth? The air around your body solidified? Hinata was a little curious. Hyogo nodded slightly and also wondered. Hinata, before you made your move, did you use some kind of technique? Hinata shook his head, but in his heart he was guessing. Could it be that when he made his move just now, he inadvertently mobilized the natural energy in nature? Hinata still has a good understanding of his current strength. Although Hyogo is not his opponent, he can still resist. But if Hinata can use the natural energy to block the opponent's movement at the moment of making a move, then a ninja of Hyogo's level can't even resist Hinata. Hyogo took out the seal scroll, and his eyes moved slightly. How do I absorb this thing? No ninja can resist the temptation of strength, not to mention the head of a family like Hyogo. Hyogo carries the honor and prosperity of the family on his back, and no one in the Hyuga family is more eager for strength than him. Chapter 270. I just need to eat it. Thinking about his own situation, Hinata added, but I still need to work hard to control the chakra, otherwise it will. Hinata scratched her head. She didn't know how to explain the situation of chakra going out of control. Hyogo nodded and said, I understand. Sitting cross-legged on the wooden floor, Hyogo opened the seal scroll, revealing the sealing technique in the scroll. With just a glance, Hyogo knew that this seal wasn't something that Hinata could do. Did someone help Hinata? Hyogo was hesitant. He didn't know whether the person who helped Hinata was a friend or a foe. He also didn't know what that person's purpose was, and what they wanted from the Hyuga family. Who drew this sealing technique? Even if he decided not to pry into Hinata's secret, Hyogo couldn't help but ask. The tragedy of the Uchiha clan being exterminated was still vivid in his mind. When Itachi Uchiha was involved in this matter, he was only 1 year older than Hinata. Although Hinata looks a bit unconventional, she is already a ninja who can take charge of her own affairs, and she also has her own ideas. The establishment of a person's values was in his childhood. For ninjas at the age of 12 or 13, their values are gradually maturing. Although Hyogo has absolute trust in Hinata, he can't guarantee that there won't be someone who wants to use Hinata to achieve some unspeakable purpose. In Hyogo's view, if someone suddenly gave Hinata so much chakra, their purpose must be very simple. People are greedy, and there is no such thing as a free lunch in this world. Hinata thought for a while and said casually, he is my friend. Friend? Hyogo was still worried. Hinata was a little helpless and could only explain, well, it's the kind of friend that has a very, very good relationship, the kind that can be completely trusted. He has already taken a portion of the chakra. We split it equally. Hyogo nodded slightly. After pondering for a moment, he did not continue to ask. Hyogo did not really believe the friend that Hinata mentioned. It was just that the power of this friend was not something that the Hyuga family could fight against. Hyogo knew how powerful Hinata's friend was after hearing about the tragedy of the battle in the Fire Nation. Regardless of whether the other party was plotting against the Hyuga family would not be able to do anything if they did not increase their strength. From Hyogo's point of view, if the other party's goal was not to get the supercilious eyes from the Hyuga family, then he must have some thoughts about Hinata. Looking at the sealing technique on the scroll, Hyogo analyzed it for a while and said in a low voice, it's a very mysterious sealing technique. But the other party is very thoughtful. The method of unsealing the technique is the same as unsealing a normal sealing scroll. Open. Hyogo made a hand seal, and a cloud of smoke came out of the scroll with a boom. When the smoke dissipated, the chakra cloud was floating quietly on top of the scroll. Hyogo took the chakra and frowned. Do I just eat it directly? Hinata nodded. Yes. Even after Hyogo swallowed the chakra cloud, he still could not believe that the method of absorbing chakra was so simple. Hinata must have said that because he did not know any other method. Supercilious eyes. Hinata activated his supercilious eyes and carefully observed the changes in Hyogo's body. Thanks to the increase in power of his supercilious eyes, Hinata could see more clearly this time. But it seems to be different from the last time. Hinata was a little confused. However, Hyogo was using all his strength to control the chakra. He looked like he was using all his strength to squeeze the chakra. Even his face was a little distorted. Looking at Hyogo's expression, it was obvious that he could not explain it to Hinata. When Hinata absorbed the chakra, the life force in the chakra mainly changed Hinata's body. Along with the life force, Hinata absorbed the power of yin and yang, and the divine tree chakra. However, Hyogo was different from Hinata. It was mainly reflected in his eyes. As the life force entered Hyogo's body, the power of yin and yang in the chakra flowed to Hyogo's eyes instead of being absorbed by his body like Hinata. Was it done by Sasuke? Or was it because of Hyogo himself? Although the 9-tailed beasts all came from the 10 tails, their abilities were different. Hinata could not determine if the 9-tailed beasts changed when they became tailed beasts or if the Sage of the Six Paths had already distributed all the power when he divided the chakra. Time passed little by little. As a part of the chakra was absorbed by Hyogo, Hyogo's constipated face improved a lot. Hinata felt that he could let Zetsu with the swirling face come over to take a look. As long as he saw Hyogo's face, he should understand what constipation felt like. "Father, how do you feel?" "I feel great." Hyogo opened his Byakugan, but with his eye power, he could only see the flow of chakra. Hinata curiously asked, "What about your eyes? How do you feel?" "Eyes." Hyogo touched his eyes and shook his head. "I don't feel anything yet." Hinata did not continue to ask. He carefully observed the changes in Hyogo's body, while waiting quietly with Hyogo. Through this observation, Hinata had a more accurate judgment of the power of the divine tree. Most of the life force contained in the divine tree was concentrated in the body of the divine tree. The chakra contained in the chakra of the god tree is not much, so when Hyuga Hayashi absorbs the chakra, a large amount of chakra will be lost. This was the same as Hinata's experience. After all, the Ura-type chakra did not directly transform into a life form like the tailed beasts. The return of chakra was understandable. Hyogo's speed of absorbing life force was slower than Hinata's. His mother and Huahua came once during this period. When they saw Hinata and Hyogo cultivating, they did not disturb the two. Hyogo slowly got up after 9 o'clock in the evening. He could already feel the difference in his body. Amazing! It was only at this moment that Hyogo truly understood how big the gap was between him and Hinata. Chakra has increased by dozens of times compared to before. Hinata quickly said, "Father-sama, let's try it." "Okay." Hyogo did not hesitate this time and readily agreed to Hinata's unreasonable request. In the past, Hyogo could not beat Hinata, so he had to be careful in front of Hinata. But this time, let's see how arrogant you can be. Hinata and Hyogo got into the starting position of the gentle fist at the same time, then hit each other with their palms. Hyogo frowned slightly. The feeling of the air being stagnant came again, smack. A huge force came from the palm, and Hyogo was forced to take more than 10 steps back before he could stabilize himself. Hyogo. Chapter 271. Hinata touched his index finger and looked at Hyogo shyly. Hyogo's face was full of embarrassment. "This is the gap between the senjutsu and chakra," Hinata explained first. Although father's physique has been improved, it seems that he hasn't opened the senjutsu. In the end, Hinata was a little confused and puzzled. In Hyogo's chakra, there was still only spiritual energy and physical energy, but there was no natural energy. The natural energy contained in chakra seemed to have completely evaporated. Hyogo felt something and said lightly, "Maybe it's because of the eyes?" "Eyes." Hinata looked at Hyogo's eyes curiously. "It's like this." At the same time, a small black dot suddenly appeared in the center of Hyogo's white pupils. The small black dot quickly began to spread around, forming a circle. Hyuga Hayashi's Byakugan had completely disappeared, and was replaced by blue eyes with white circles in them. Puff! Hinata almost spat out the salt soda. "What is this? Rinnegan? There is such a thing?" Hinata carefully observed for a moment. Hyogo's Rinnegan and Nagato's Rinnegan were different in color. Hyogo's Rinnegan was blue, exactly the same as the first form of Otsutsuki Rinnegan. Otsutsuki Rinnegan had two forms, the normal Rinnegan was blue, and the 6 Tomo Rinnegan was red. Hinata asked curiously, "Father-sama, do your eyes have any ability?" Hyogo calmed down for a moment, then shook his head and said, "I don't know, for the time being, I need to try. But this dojutsu is not suitable to be exposed at the moment." After saying that, Hyogo closed his Rinnegan, and his eyes returned to the Byakugan form. Hinata was full of envy. Hyuga Hayashi was able to open the Rinnegan so easily, while her Tensegan still hasn't been opened yet. Hinata. Hyogo suddenly became serious, and Hinata also looked at Hyogo with a serious face. Sit down and talk. The father and daughter returned to the study, and sat on both sides of the table. Hyuga Hayashi boiled water and made tea. Looking at him, it was obvious that he had a lot to say. Taking the tea handed by Hyogo, Hinata suddenly thought of something and said nervously, "Father, there may be a reason why you opened Rinnegan. If one day you suddenly have the thought of channeling something, remember not to do it." "I know," Hyuga Hayashi asked lightly. "Is this the legendary Rinnegan?" "Yes." Hinata nodded and explained. Rinnegan is known as one of the 3 dojutsu, but the eye power of Rinnegan is much stronger than Byakugan and Sharingan. But Father's Rinnegan is just the most ordinary Rinnegan. It needs to continue to absorb the power of Yin and Yang to evolve. It's just that Rinnegan. Hinata did have some worries. Before Kagaya was sealed, she also created something like Black Zetsu. No one can guarantee whether Pushur also left a way to resurrect. Although at the moment when Pushur was sealed, Hinata used 3 different perception abilities in a row and didn't find anything strange nearby, but she didn't feel anything strange. But no one can guarantee whether Pushur will do something to the part of chakra that he divided. Hinata was also a little annoyed. Why didn't he think of this before? Rikudo Sennin did not absorb the Jubi's chakra, but divided it into 9 parts and became 9-tailed beasts. Could there be some kind of consideration in this? Although the body of the shinobi world's god tree Geto Mazo is integrated with Kagaya, the chakra of the god tree exists independently. Rikudo Sennin can absorb the Jubi's chakra. Seeing Hinata's worried face, Hyogo frowned and said, "Hinata, what are you worried about?" Hinata shook his head. "Nothing. At most in 2 or 3 years, all the problems will be gone." "Father, as you said before, don't use the ability of Rinnegan for the time being." Hyogo thought for a moment and continued to ask, "So in this chakra, there is someone else's will?" "It's possible." Hinata also said with great worry, "I saw my friend and I can temporarily suppress this person's will, so we didn't consider this point. But Father can't do it for the time being." Hinata has now figured out some things. Although Pushur has been completely sealed, if the body of the god tree in Pushur's body is psychic and all the chakra is taken back, Pushur may be resurrected in the shinobi world. If Hinata didn't see the same color of Hyogo's Rinnegan as Pushur, he might not have thought of this point. Chakra contains spiritual energy, and Pushur's chakra must also contain his will. Perhaps Pushur can't control these chakra remotely, but Hyogo will inevitably be affected by Pushur, and then absorb the body of the god tree into his body. Hyogo nodded and said, "I won't use the ability of Rinnegan for the time being. This is not only because of your concern, but also to protect the Hyuga clan. Let's not talk about the future of the shinobi world for the time being. At least in the current shinobi world, the 5 major shinobi villages are still hostile to each other, and the shinobi world war may break out at any time. Once Hyogo's Rinnegan is exposed, the entire Hyuga clan will become prey in the eyes of others. Even in Shinobu, there must be someone who covets the power of Rinnegan, and secretly makes a move on the Hyuga clan." Hyogo continued, "Hinata, with your current strength, you can protect yourself in the face of any crisis. As for the Hyuga family, I can also support them for a while. But your experience tells me that the crisis of the shinobi world doesn't only come from the other 4 major shinobi villages. Is that so?" Hinata pondered for a moment, but still shook his head and said, "Father, it's not that I don't want to say it, but in fact, wait 3 or 4 years, you will understand all of this. It's just that I can't say it for the time being. I'm sorry." Hinata was a little ashamed. Alas! With a sigh, Hyogo was a little relieved, but at the same time he said with a little sadness, "Hinata, you have grown up, and you have begun to have your own ideas and plans. As a father, I won't stop you, but I want you to remember that you will always be the heir of the Hyuga family, and you are my daughter." Hinata nodded vigorously. "Father, don't worry. I will definitely protect the Hyuga family," Hinata said very solemnly. "In fact, you don't have to worry too much. The current shinobi world, I can take care of everything. Shinobu aside, at least in the village, no one can do anything to the Hyuga family. The branch family also has the caged bird. This curse seal that once controlled the freedom of the branch family seems to have become a kind of protection at present. Organizations have become Hinata's power. Hinata even believes that as long as he tells Black Zetsu that he wants to kill the Tsuchikage and Reikage, Black Zetsu will dare to let bordered soil trick Nagato. Chapter 272. As the heir of the Hyuga main family, the new year has always been the busiest time for Hinata. Not only does he have to entertain the elders of the family, but he also has to entertain other ninja clans and the nobles of the Land of Fire. This year is the first year after Hinata became a ninja. Hinata is now in the limelight in the ninja world, and the number of people who come to visit the Hyuga family is much more than before. Fortunately, Hinata is not the only one who has to endure the torture. Shikamaru, Ino, Choji, Kiba, Shino and Niji are also busy following behind their father. Occasionally they meet, but they can only say hello with a bitter face. Before graduation, everyone can compete to see who has more New Year's money after the new year. And then the person with the most New Year's money will treat everyone to a meal. But everyone is now a ninja, and after the new year, they will be busy with their own tasks, and even the time for gatherings can only be taken out of their busy schedule. On the first day of the new year, Hinata held a fan meeting at the Shinobu Stadium, and completed 53 C-level tasks at one time, adding a lot of experience to the ninja profile. If this experience is repeated dozens of times, Hinata's mission experience will completely surpass Kakashi's. This is also Hinata's biggest goal. His friends in the same year also gave him face, and came to Hinata's fan meeting to support him. In the evening, everyone gathered together for dinner, and talked about things after graduation. Although everyone is only 13 years old after the new year, their minds have matured a lot, and Hinata and Shikamaru are already Chunin. There are 2 more Chunin exams in February and August this year, and there should be many people who will be promoted to Chunin. And Hinata will soon be a Jonin. Every time he thinks of this, Hinata's sense of superiority suddenly rises spontaneously. On January 3rd, Hinata came to Naruto's office at 8 o'clock in the morning to report. Although he has only rested for a few days, Hinata feels that he hasn't reported to Naruto's office for a long time, and it is quite the novelty of reporting here for the first time. Tsunade looked at Hinata meaningfully and said with a bad intention, "Others are full of energy after the new year. Hinata, why do you look so tired?" Hinata despised Tsunade in his heart. "You should have experienced this when you were a child." Tsunade chuckled and took out Hinata's ninja information from the drawer, and said, "Although it is a little bit of opportunistic, but the number of tasks has met the requirements, and you can take the official exam." Yes. Hinata stood obediently. If the purpose of the Chunin exam is mainly to test the ninja's ability to lead a team, then the Jonin exam is to test the ninja's strength. Ninja levels can be roughly divided into 3 levels: Jonin, Chunin, and Genin, but if they are subdivided, they can also be divided into several levels. The so-called special Jonin is different from the all-round development of Jonin. They are ninjas with unique talents and development in some aspects, and their strength is between Chunin and Jonin. Jonin is the real elite of each village. In addition to leadership, Jonin is also required to have outstanding performance in various aspects such as ninjutsu and analytical ability, and is an all-round ninja. Elite Jonin refers to ninjas who are qualified to lead a Jonin team to perform tasks, and their strength is also beyond ordinary Jonin. Before this, Hinata's strength has met the requirements to be promoted to Jonin, but there is still some gap in ninja qualifications. However, since Hinata completed 53 C-level tasks at once, Hinata is qualified to skip the special Jonin level and be promoted directly to Jonin. Tsunade continued. Generally speaking, as long as the mission qualifications are enough, and the strength has reached a certain level, you are qualified to be promoted to Jonin. The Jonin exam is only a test of strength. Speaking of this, Tsunade said lightly to the office door, "Come in." Hinata also looked back. The office door was pushed open, and Asuma walked in casually with a cigarette in his mouth and said hello with a smile. "Yo. Good morning. Naruto-sama." Hinata Good morning, Asuma-sensei. Hinata also said with a smile. Asuma-sensei, are you the examiner of this Jonin exam? Yes. Asuma said with an encouraging attitude and said with a smile. Hinata, we have performed several tasks together. Although I think you have the strength of a Jonin, the necessary procedures are still necessary. Hinata, you have to perform well later. But as a senpai, I also have to be responsible for the younger generation. Hinata, I won't be merciful later, you have to be mentally prepared. Hinata and Tsunade looked at each other. He is so confident. Asuma is indeed very confident at the moment. Asuma and Hinata have performed several tasks together, especially when they went to the water country to support Kakashi. Asuma saw Hinata's true strength. In Asuma's view, Hinata's strength is actually stronger than his hardcore strength. But his combat experience is extremely poor. Moreover, if Hinata wants to reach the same level as she did in the water country, she must use some kind of technique. On the other hand, Hinata needed about 3 minutes to activate the technique. 3 minutes. In a ninja battle, 3 minutes is enough to determine the winner. Hinata said politely. Then I will ask Asuma-sensei for your advice. Asuma chuckled and said, when you become a Jonin, we will be colleagues and we will teach each other. Tsunade said lightly. Hinata still has a task after this. The Jonin assessment will now begin. Asuma nodded and turned to Hinata and said, Hinata, let's go to the third practice field. Okay. On a high platform outside the third practice field, Tsunade and Jinin looked at Hinata and Asuma from a distance. Tsunade suddenly chuckled and turned to look at Jinin and asked, Jinin, how long do you think Asuma can last? Jinin whispered, Tsunade-sama, as the Naruto of Shinobu Village, isn't it inappropriate to say that? Tsunade said indifferently, why don't we make a bet? 3 minutes, I bet Asuma can't last more than 3 minutes. Jinin asked, how do we calculate this? Tsunade chuckled and said in a clear voice, let's see whose guess is closer. Jinin nodded and then looked at Tsunade with contempt. Tsunade obviously knew the strength of Hinata and Asuma very well. Before entering Sage Mode, it would be difficult for Hinata to defeat Asuma in a short time, but once Hinata enters Sage Mode, Asuma basically has no chance of winning. Therefore, this battle only has 3 minutes to watch. Asuma can either defeat Hinata in 3 minutes or simply admit defeat after 3 minutes. Jinin calmly analyzed. Then I guess 2 minutes. Tsunade said confidently. Jinin, you will lose this time. Hinata's strength has reached a bottleneck, especially in the gentle fist. It will be difficult to improve in a short time. If he only fights in his normal state, Hinata can only use the moves of the gentle fist system. Asuma also has enough understanding of Hinata. If he dares to take this test, it means that he is fully prepared. Jinin said with a dark face. Then let's wait and see. Chapter 273. Asuma threw the cigarette butt on the ground and stepped on it, took out his chakra and said seriously, Hinata, do you still need to prepare anything? As early as last year, the news that Hinata was about to be promoted to Jonin was no longer a secret in the Shinobu circle. The first time Hinata became famous in the circle of Jonin was when he just became a ninja last year, and when he forced Kakashi to eat a meal. Many people are speculating whether Hinata will pass the Jonin exam or not. Although the Hyuga family is a taijutsu sect ninja family, Hinata is extremely good at close range, medium range, and long range combat, and his chakra is even more amazing. If you want to assess Hinata's strength, you must be a ninja who is proficient in both ninjutsu and taijutsu. The information of a ninja can't be exposed casually, so the only candidates for the Jonin exam are Kakashi and Asuma, who know Hinata's strength. However, Kakashi firmly refused the matter on the grounds that he is Hinata's Jonin, so the task of the examiner can only fall on Asuma's head. Asuma is also a veteran Shinobu elite Jonin, and in close range and medium range combat, he is second to none in Shinobu. For this exam, Asuma also did his homework and secretly found Hyuga Hizashi several times to learn more about the combat routines of the Hyuga family. Hinata shook his head slightly and said softly, no need to prepare. Asuma nodded and said seriously, then I announce, the Jonin exam of Shinobu Hinata. officially begins. As soon as his voice fell, Asuma immediately jumped back a few steps, opening the distance between him and Hinata. It's useless to hide when fighting against a Hyuga family ninja. And considering that Hinata's jutsu takes 3 minutes to activate, Asuma must also end the battle quickly. Throwing the chakra in his hand to the sky, Asuma was ready to launch a ninjutsu to test Hinata's current strength. In fact, on the way to the third practice field, Hinata has been thinking about a problem. Should he give some face to Asuma? Although it is an extremely shameful thing to be killed by a junior, if Asuma knows afterwards that Hinata went easy on him, he probably won't be happy, right? So Hinata finally decided. He must go all out. Regardless of whether it was a life and death battle or daily sparring, going all out was the greatest respect one could give to one's opponent. When Asuma announced the start of the test and jumped back to open the distance, Hinata's feet moved, and his whole body quickly rushed towards Asuma. Asuma's eyes slightly narrowed and judged in his heart. Too impulsive. Rushing rashly without determining what ninjutsu the opponent is going to use. This will put himself in danger. Thinking of this, Asuma accelerated the speed of the hand seals. There seems to be an inexplicable resistance between Asuma's hands, not to mention the hand seals. It is extremely difficult to even put his hands together. And Hinata's speed is so fast. Asuma instantly judged the situation in his mind, and wanted to jump to avoid Hinata's attack. What the hell is going on? Is this a genjutsu? Asuma felt that the air around his body seemed to have solidified, although it was not to the extent that he couldn't move. The weight of the air seemed to have increased several times in an instant, and every movement was like being in the deep sea, full of resistance around his body. In an instant, the judgment was made in just a short second. Hinata had already arrived in front of Asuma, and his evil little hand had also reached towards the lower part of Asuma's abdomen. Soft fist technique, kidney strike. Pa. Ouch! Asuma cried out in pain, and his whole body flew upside down. The pain from his kidney almost made Asuma unconscious. Not good. What should I do in the future, Red Sensei? Hinata instantly thought of Sunset, and always felt that it was a bit unkind to hit Asuma's kidney. Asuma was not as single as Kakashi. Thinking of this, Hinata instantly accelerated, and caught up with Asuma, who was flying upside down. And a green light appeared on his small hand, and he gently touched Asuma's abdomen. It doesn't hurt anymore. While he was still in the air, Asuma thought of many things in an instant. Too strong. Compared to the last battle in the water country, Hinata's strength had undergone an earth-shaking change. Not only could he use chakra to obstruct his opponent, but his speed was also much faster than before. Even if there was no resistance, Asuma admitted that he was definitely no match for Hinata in close combat. Originally, this was fine. However, after Hinata attacked his opponent, before his opponent even landed on the ground, he had already healed his opponent's injuries. This is not something an ordinary medical ninja can do. Bang! Asuma fell to the ground and stared blankly at the sky. He was starting to doubt his life. A cool breeze blew past. Even though Asuma didn't look like he was in a sorry state, he looked extremely miserable. It was as if he had been raped by dozens of burly men. Hinata jogged over to help Asuma up and asked with concern, "Teacher Asuma, are you all right?" "I'm fine." Thinking of Hyuga Hizashi's evaluation of Hinata, Asuma smiled bitterly and looked at Hinata and said, "Hinata, you really are a genius of the Hyuga family. You won." Next, I announced that Shinobu Chunin Hinata has passed the Jonin exam. Hinata pouted and said with dissatisfaction, "Why is it only a few decades? Shouldn't it be 1,000 years?" Asuma looked at Hinata in confusion. This is already a very high evaluation, okay? On the high platform outside the third training ground, Tsunade and Jinin were shocked speechless. Jinin didn't have a clear understanding of Hinata's strength, but Tsunade was from the Senju clan, and had seen Hinata when she was a child, so she had an accurate judgment of Hinata's strength. This is already. Although Tsunade hasn't seen Hashirama in action with her own eyes, she can more or less understand it based on the information in her family. The kind of power that can form an overwhelming force against a Jonin. Tsunade will never misjudge. Hinata's strength has reached the level of Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara. How old is Hinata this year? What kind of terrifying level will she reach in the future? Although Tsunade had made such a judgment as early as when Hinata could suppress 9 tails. However, at that time, Tsunade thought that Hinata would need at least 10 years or even decades to reach the level of Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara. Especially when Tsunade learned that Hinata's taijutsu has not improved for a long time due to her physical development. She thought that Hinata still needs at least 10 years to grow. Jinin heard Tsunade muttering to herself, turned her head and asked curiously, "Tsunade-sama?" "Ha." Tsunade recovered and then said in a deep voice, "Let Hinata come to my office immediately." Jinin immediately responded, "Yes." "Right." Suddenly thinking of something, Tsunade added, "Tell Asma that today's assessment content is classified as the village's S-level secret and must not be leaked to the outside world." "Yes." Chapter 274. In Naruto's office, there were only 2 people, Hinata and Tsunade. Even Jinin was driven out by Tsunade. Tsunade leaned on the table with both hands, his body leaned in front of Hinata, his eyes fixed on Hinata, not saying a word. Hinata stood with his hands on both sides of his body, looking like a standard military posture. Hinata and Tsunade were very close to each other, almost sticking together. Hinata could vaguely smell a milky fragrance. Ahem. With a light cough, Tsunade looked at Hinata and said in a deep voice, "Hinata, you." After deliberating over his words, Tsunade solemnly said, "Your strength. When did it happen?" Hinata had already made up a lie to fool Tsunade. Hearing the question, he said slowly, "Last year." "I know it was last year." Tsunade rolled his eyes and said lightly, "Although this is your own secret, but as the village's Naruto, I still have to know more or less. Especially a ninja of your level. Hinata, do you understand?" Hinata nodded and said seriously, "I understand completely." Thinking about it. Probably after returning from the sand-hidden village. Lascivious Sage told me before that I should use Sage Mode as a trump card. So when I supported Kakashi-sensei in the water country, it was the first time I used Sage Mode. Later, on the way back from the sand-hidden village, we were attacked by the organizations, and I used Sage Mode again. But, after a pause, Hinata continued, "But the time to enter Sage Mode twice was greatly reduced. After many years of research." Tsunade glared fiercely at Hinata and couldn't help but ridicule. "Many years?" Hinata's face was slightly red, but soon returned to normal, and said seriously, "After many days of research in Sage Mode, natural energy will change my physique. At first, I just wanted to speed up the time to enter Sage Mode, but later," Hinata said with some distress, "I can only maintain Sage Mode now. I can't even change back to my normal state." Tsunade had fully understood, but she still couldn't believe it. "You mean you've been maintaining Sage Mode for a long time, and your body is completely accustomed to Senjutsu chakra, and you can't even change into an ordinary state?" Hinata scratched his head and said with distress, "That's about it." Tsunade. To be honest, as a medical ninja, Tsunade now wants to dissect Hinata and study what Hinata's body is made of. Tsunade has completely believed Hinata's nonsense. After all, Hashirama can instantly enter Sage Mode with his Sage Mode. This information has been recorded in the Senju clan's data, especially the second Naruto Senju Tobirama, who has studied Hashirama's Sage Mode in detail. After Tsunade became the 5th Naruto, he also knew that there was a guy in the Umbu department with the code name Tenzo, who can use Hashirama's wood release. However, the power of the two is like heaven and earth. Therefore, Hinata's situation is not beyond the scope of Tsunade's knowledge. Tsunade even figured out a lot of things in an instant. In particular, Hinata healed Asma's injury in an instant, which proves that Hinata has an extremely outstanding talent in yang release. Tsunade asked in a deep voice, "If my judgment is correct, Hinata, can you instantly heal some injuries on your body?" Shaking his head, Hinata said in confusion, "I don't know. I don't seem to have been injured before." Tsunade said with great curiosity, "Do you want to try it now?" Hinata took a few steps back and shook his head desperately. "Absolutely not, it hurts too much." "As a ninja, you are afraid of pain? It's not shameful to be afraid of pain." Just try it, it's just cutting your finger, it doesn't hurt. You liar. Cutting your finger is super painful. I am the strongest medical ninja in the ninja world. I am the authority. Hinata, you have to believe me, it really doesn't hurt at all. Hinata has already retreated to the corner. Seeing that there is no way out, Hinata can only admit, yes, I can heal injuries in an instant. Tsunade, I don't believe you. Seeing that Hinata is even afraid of a small wound less than a centimeter, Tsunade had no choice but to give up. And even if this kind of thing has not been tested, Tsunade already has a rough idea in his heart. Returning to his desk and sitting down, Tsunade looked at Hinata and tempted. Hinata, do you want to learn summoning jutsu? Yes. I don't want to, Hinata said gloomily. Do I want to or not? Tsunade rolled his eyes and complained. How would I know if you want to or not? But from now on, you have to learn medical ninjutsu from me. If you don't use such a good talent, it would be too wasteful. Hinata promised, no problem. Tsunade took out a letter from the drawer and said, although I have already decided to send you to investigate the battle in the Land of Fire, it has been a long time. Even if I send you now, you shouldn't be able to find any useful information. But yesterday, Jiraiya sent a message that he needs your help? Hinata curiously asked. Lecherous sage, is he in trouble? Tsunade explained, Jiraiya and Naruto are celebrating the new year in a small town in the Land of Rainbow. When they went out, they accidentally found an ancient ruin. But if we want to explore it, we will need the help of a perceptive ninja. After thinking about it, only you are the most suitable among the shinobu. Hinata took Jiraiya's letter and looked at it. Ancient ruin? This shouldn't be Black Zetsu's doing, right? Hinata still remembered that he asked Black Zetsu to create an ancient ruin, and then he slandered Hagoromo Sannin, saying that he was unfaithful, unfilial, and unrighteous. Now more than half a month has passed, and Jiraiya and Naruto suddenly found an ancient ruin. If you don't consider the original work and only analyze it according to the historical trajectory, Naruto and Sasuke, as the reincarnation of Asura and Indra, can only grow to the level of Hashirama and Uchiha Madara, which is far from being a threat to Otsutsuki Kagaya. This is also the important reason why Black Zetsu has never targeted Naruto and Sasuke. And once Uchiha Madara's plan fails, Naruto's power may allow Sasuke to open the Rinnegan again. However, the real point is, Hagoromo Sennin's chakra still remains in the world. Once Hagoromo Sennin's chakra reappears, Naruto and Sasuke can at least get the power to seal Otsutsuki Kagaya. Hinata mentioned this to Black Zetsu before. Originally, Black Zetsu wanted to get rid of Naruto and Sasuke, but Hinata has his own plan. Let the power of Naruto and Sasuke become the power of Otsutsuki Kagaya, and everyone will fight against the other Otsutsuki clan members. Therefore, Hagoromo Sannin, revealing part of history, and at the same time distorting part of history, describing Kagaya as a poor mother who was betrayed by her son, became a task that Black Zetsu must complete. And this so-called ancient ruin, Tsunade looked at Hinata and said, Hinata, you immediately go to the Rainbow Country to help Jiraiya crack the ancient ruin, and then bring the information back to Shinobu. Yes. Chapter 275. The Rainbow Country is located south of the Water Country, and is an island country like the Water Country. The land area of the Rainbow Country is not smaller than the Water Country, but because there are no ninjas in the country, it is not one of the 5 ninja countries. Like the Iron Country, the Rainbow Country is also a samurai country, and has always maintained a neutral attitude in the ninja war. Taking the Wind God and Thunder God, Hinata set out from Shinobu, and took a ship to the port along the coast of the Fire Country towards the Rainbow Country. After drifting on the sea for more than half a month, Hinata and the other 2 landed at the port on the northwest coast of the Rainbow Country, and entered the territory of the Rainbow Country. The Rainbow Country is a samurai country, and ninjas are very rejected here. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. Hinata also took off her ninja costume, and changed into an ordinary person's outfit. With the sunglasses on, no one could find Hinata's eyes. The Wind God and Thunder God disguised as Hinata's followers, and Hinata pretended to be a rich lady who went out to play, and found a hotel in the town near the port to stay for the night. It's very rich here. The local customs of the Rainbow Country are completely different from that of the Water Country. The people here are martial and have been neutral and peaceful for many years, and the economic development is far better than that of the Water Country. Just seeing the residents of the town, Hinata can feel a completely different spiritual outlook. Lascivious Immortal and Naruto are here now. Hinata lay on the bed looking at the map of the Rainbow Country, and marked the location of Jiraiya and Naruto. The two idiots obviously can't discuss countermeasures with Hinata, so Hinata can only hide in the room and slowly study. Fortunately, before leaving, Hinata had left a secret signal to White Zetsu. If Black Zetsu is in the Rainbow Country, he should contact Hinata in the next 2 days. After calculating the approximate distance and time, Hinata yawned and covered his head with the quilt and fell asleep. Early the next morning, Hinata strolled around the small town by himself, learning about the local customs of the Rainbow Kingdom while collecting some useful information. The Rainbow Country wasn't considered a closed country. It had business dealings with the Fire Country, the Water Country, the Soup Country, the Tea Country, and other coastal countries. Although the samurai also had chakra, the way they used it was completely different from the ninja. Hinata also sensed some chakra reactions on the streets, but they were very weak. The 5 major ninja countries check and balance each other, and few ninja villages take the initiative to provoke these samurai-dominated neutral countries. The Rainbow Country still maintains the most ancient customs and traditions. In the ninja world, the Rainbow Country is one of the few ancient countries left. At night, Hinata returned to the hotel and prepared to wait for Black Zoo for one last night. If Black Zoo didn't come tonight, Hinata would have to leave the next day to meet up with Jiraiya and Naruto. At around 7 o'clock in the evening, Hinata was reading a novel under the covers. "Yo, you are really leisurely." Hearing White Zoo's slightly annoying voice, Hinata put down the novel and turned to look at the open space in the middle of the room. Half of Zetsu's body drilled out of the ground. Black Zetsu went straight to the point and asked, "Hinata, what happened in the Land of Fire?" "Hey, you don't know?" Hinata was a little surprised and then explained, "It's the Otsutsuki clan, but they have been sealed." "Otsutsuki? Sealed?" When he surveyed the battlefield before, Black Zoo felt that the two sides of this battle were not ordinary ninjas. Especially the traces left by the Chibaku Tensei. Others may not know, but Black Zoo's heart was clear. Black Zoo was very concerned about this matter. Who exactly was sealed? Who used the Chibaku Tensei? Is this person still in the ninja world? Black Zoo asked Hinata. Originally, he just wanted to test whether this matter had something to do with Hinata, but he didn't expect that it really had something to do with Hinata. Hinata explained, "The enemy is the Otsutsuki Shiki. In terms of strength, not to mention compared to Kagaya, even compared to Hagoromo Sannin and Hamura Sannin, he is far inferior. Yurushi should be just a small soldier of the Otsutsuki clan, who came to investigate Kagaya's information." Black Zoo looked dignified. He didn't expect the Otsutsuki clan to really find him. "Who sealed the Otsutsuki Shiki?" "It's me," Hinata said with a thick face. "I borrowed the power of Hamura Sannin and used the Chibaku Tensei to seal the Otsutsuki Shiki." Black Zoo looked at Hinata strangely. "Hamura's chakra is still in the world." "Yes. If Hamura didn't tell you everything, you wouldn't know about Mother." After a pause, Black Zoo asked again, "Is there any information about the Otsutsuki clan?" Hinata shook his head and said slowly, "No. However, the enemy of the Otsutsuki clan is obviously not only Yurushi. If Yurushi is just a small soldier, then there must be stronger enemies appearing next. We must resurrect Kagaya's ancestor as soon as possible." Speaking of this, Hinata asked seriously, "The ancient ruins discovered by Jiraiya, were you the one who did it?" Black Zoo admitted, "Yes. I made some obstacles in the ruins, and Shinobu will definitely send you to explore the ruins." Hinata was surprised. "You want to see me?" Black Zoo explained. "In addition to asking about the Land of Fire, there is one more thing I need your help with." Hinata was stunned. "What's the matter?" Black Zoo's tone was low. 13 years ago, Uchiha bordered Soil planned the Nine-Tails attack on Shinobu. At that time, The fourth generation Naruto divided the 9 tails into 2 with the corpse demon seal. One half was sealed in Naruto's body, and the other half was sealed in his own body. I was on the side at that time, but I couldn't stop it. I hope you can help me steal the corpse demon seal secret technique, and I will try to release the other half of the 9 tails chakra. Hinata scratched his head with some embarrassment. That's it. Speaking of it, Shinobu may not have a way to break the corpse demon seal. Instead of starting with Shinobu, it's better to start with Orochimaru. The 3 generations used this technique to seal Orochimaru's hands, and Orochimaru will do his best to study the corpse demon seal. Perhaps Orochimaru has already paid a certain price to exchange the corpse demon seal with Danzo of Root, but I will try my best to try with Shinobu. Whitezu playfully said. Orochimaru. I heard that Sasori has been tracking Orochimaru recently. Do you want to recall Orochimaru back to the organization? Black Zu was silent for a moment and faintly said, with Itachi Uchiha there, Orochimaru won't have the face to come back. If we find Orochimaru's whereabouts, we can let Nagato do it. Whitezu said. Leave it to me. Hinata curiously asked. Black Zu, what did you do in the ancient ruins? Black Zu said in a deep voice, according to your instructions and some of my ideas. Black Zu looked up at Hinata and faintly said, although you want to win over the reincarnation of Indra and Azura, the power of the 9 tails must be taken back. For our cooperation to be happy, I thought of what happened 13 years ago. But if you can't break the corpse demon seal and get the half of the 9 tails in the body of the 4th generation, then I must take back the 9 tails in Naruto's body. After a pause, Black Zu looked at Hinata and said, this is the key to resurrecting the Jubi. As for what happens after that, it's up to Mother to decide. Hinata thought for a moment and nodded. I know, happy cooperation. Chapter 276. So far, Shikifujin has only appeared twice in the ninja world. The first time was when Minato sealed the 9 tails, and the second time was when Naruto sealed Orochimaru in the 3 generations. Black Zetsu obviously didn't know the way to break Shikifujin. Before this, Black Zetsu never thought about breaking Shikifujin and getting the other half of the 9 tails in Minato's body. Black Zetsu took the initiative to mention this matter, obviously to show his sincerity to Hinata. Although Hinata didn't know much about the ways of the world, he wasn't stupid. Black Zetsu took the initiative to mention this matter after Hinata said that he borrowed the power of Otsutsuki Hamura and used Chibaku Tensei to seal Otsutsuki. Obviously, this matter gave Black Zetsu a lot of shock, and it also made Black Zetsu truly understand that Hinata had the ability to stop him. That's why Black Zetsu said sincerity. However, Hinata wasn't really fooling Black Zetsu. Orochimaru must have gotten Shikifujin from Danzo and was studying the way to break it. The reason why Orochimaru didn't act in the manga was because the Uzumaki clan's noodle hall was in Shinobu village. Orochimaru, who lost his hands, obviously didn't have the confidence to sneak into Shinobu again. Orochimaru should want to get Sasuke's body first, and then use the power of Sharingan to invade Shinobu. But if Nagato found Orochimaru, Hinata's face darkened. At that time, if it wasn't Orochimaru, it would be Shinobu. If Orochimaru and Nagato got cooperation, let Nagato help him get the Shinigami's mask, and Orochimaru helped Nagato get the 9 tails in Minato's body, Nagato would definitely break into Shinobu. Thinking of this, Hinata quickly reminded. Black Zetsu, if you cooperate with Orochimaru, be sure to inform me. White Zetsu wondered. Oh, do you have something to do with Orochimaru? Yes. Hinata nodded. Orochimaru has a cloned horn of Hachibi. I want to see if I can absorb Hachibi's chakra. Black heard this. Black Zetsu said solemnly. Orochimaru has such a thing? It seems that he has gathered a lot of information during these years in Akatsuki. White Zetsu, you must find Orochimaru's hiding place as soon as possible. White Zetsu dragged his voice and said leisurely. Okay, but I always feel that Orochimaru is going to be unlucky. Black Zetsu looked at Hinata and asked. Hinata, what else do you want? Hinata thought for a while and suddenly asked. Black Zetsu, do you know how Uchiha Madara fused with Hashirama's cells? And, is the Shikatsugu clan the descendants of Kagaya? White Zetsu thought for a while and suddenly said, "Oh, I remember. You once fought with Kimimaro of the Shikatsugu clan. It seems that you stole Kimimaro's power in that battle." Hinata had checked Kimimaro's encyclopedia in his previous life. Kimimaro's surname was indeed Kagaya, but it could also be translated as bamboo taker. And judging from the Shikatsugu clan's Kekkei Genkai, Kimimaro and Otsutsuki Kagaya were probably related. Hinata had long wanted to integrate with Kimimaro's power. Killing the Grey Bones was simply too cool. Transcend time and space, fly away, and rot with the bones. People who are hit by the Grey Bones will gradually collapse in a few seconds until they turn into ashes. Even with yin-yang release, it doesn't help. Even the body of the deceased who was reincarnated from the Edo Tensei will collapse. In order to integrate with Kimimaro's power, Hinata practiced medical ninjutsu hard. Some time ago, Hinata also read a lot of books about cytology. However, Black Zetsu in front of him is not only a history textbook, but also the creator of history. It was Black Zetsu who guided Uchiha Madara to fuse with Hashirama's cells, so that the Rinnegan appeared again in the ninja world. Black Zetsu must have a way to make Hinata integrate with Kimimaro's power. Black Zetsu said lightly, "It's easy, just use the power of yin-yang jutsu." Hinata said with a worried face, "I don't want to be like Uchiha Madara, with Kimimaro's face on my chest." Since Shinobu established the village, the history of Uchiha village can be divided into 3 parts. The first part is put you in my heart, the second part is you are my eyes, and the third part is the temptation of returning to the village. If integrating with Kimimaro's power will make Hinata have Kimimaro's face on his chest, then Hinata would rather not have this power. Uchiha Madara can take out Hashirama's face on his left chest to show affection, but Hinata can't do it. Not to mention that Hinata has no relationship with Kimimaro. Even if there is a relationship, he can't show his chest casually. And it's too ugly. Uchiha Madara is also shameless. Black Zetsu pondered for a moment and explained, "If you want to fully integrate, you must meet 3 conditions. First, the vitality in your body must be stronger than Kimimaro's vitality, so that you can use your cells to devour Kimimaro's cells. Second, the power of yin-yang jutsu. Third, in addition to Kimimaro's cells, you must extract part of Kimimaro's chakra." Hinata said with a depressed face, "I'm satisfied with the first 2 conditions, but the last one. Kimimaro is dead, and I only have Kimimaro's blood in my hands." Suddenly thinking of something, Hinata asked in surprise, "By the way, if Kimimaro is resurrected by Edo Tensei, can I extract his chakra?" Black Zetsu explained, "As long as you have Kimimaro's cells." "Ha!" Hinata took a deep breath and said with a serious face, "It seems that no matter what, I have to find Orochimaru. Orochi-san, who has mastered the core technology, can do things that countless people in the ninja world can't do. What a magical Orochi-san." Black Zetsu said lightly, "I will sort out the technology of cell fusion and give it to you. I will leave the matter of Edo Tensei to you. Then, see you next time." After saying that, Zetsu slowly sank into the ground and disappeared. Hinata was also relieved. Every time he meets Black Zetsu, he always brings surprises to Hinata. Moreover, the fact that Hinata can borrow the power of Otsutsuki Himura has indeed brought a lot of shock to Black Zetsu. Fortunately, Hinata's goal is the same as Black Zetsu's. Otherwise, Black Zetsu is estimated to hide in a corner of the ninja world, waiting for Hinata to die before daring to come out to make trouble. The power of Shikatsu Pulse is not of much use to Hinata, but the advanced ability of Shikatsu Pulse is the real, one-hit kill ninjutsu. Even if the highest level of Gentle Fist system is 80 God's Air Attack, as long as the opponent uses the same strength, it can be completely offset. In Naruto's original work, Kagaya once used 80 God's Air Attack to instantly break Sasuke's complete Susanoo, but Naruto also used Nine-Tails Chakra to fight against 80 God's Air Attack. Although 80 God's Air Attack is powerful, it is not a sure kill ninjutsu. And although the attack range of Grey Bone is small, and there are many restrictions to using it, this move will definitely kill the opponent as long as it hits. Except for dodging, There is no known ninjutsu in the ninja world that can defend against this move. In the original work, Kaguya also used this move to penetrate Sasuke's Susanoo and crush it with one blow. Hinata's biggest flaw at present is that his ability is single, and he can only use Gentle Fist system ninjutsu. Expanding his ability will help Hinata deal with some enemies that can't be defeated by Gentle Fist. Chapter 277. Country of Rainbow, in front of a huge waterfall. Jiraiya was nowhere to be found. Naruto was alone in the pool under the waterfall, training hard. Hinata could see through the Byakugan that Naruto was only doing the most basic training, and Naruto's strength had only improved a little compared to when he left Shinobu. Sure enough, it's an idiot's training method, Hinata complained in a low voice. She turned to the two fat men behind her and said, "Wind God, Thunder God, I'll give you a mission. Teach that yellow-haired brat a good lesson for me later." "Got it, big sister. Can I beat him to death?" Hinata reminded. "As long as you don't beat him to death, it doesn't matter how you beat him. I'll heal him anyway." Naruto's basic training method wasn't bad. On the contrary, it was very suitable for Naruto at the moment. Naruto was different from Sasuke. Sasuke's ability to understand was very strong. He could often draw inferences from one case, so Sasuke was more suitable for Orochimaru's training method. As for Naruto, Naruto's training talent aside, there was no doubt that Naruto was an idiot. For Naruto, the best way to train was not to rely on the brain to memorize, but to rely on the body to memorize. And the current Naruto had to improve the worst foundation before he could train further. Jiraiya had clearly made a detailed plan for Naruto's training progress. Hinata didn't want to rashly interfere, but when old friends met, it was necessary to greet them. Pushing aside the grass, Wind God and Thunder God walked to the edge of the waterfall. Thunder God pointed at Naruto and said, "A yellow-haired brat, big brother." Wind God went up and shouted, "Hey, yellow-haired brat, do you have anything to eat?" Naruto walked to the shore with an unhappy face, curled his lips and asked, "Who are you?" The God of Thunder said naively, "He's not answering us, big brother." Wind God said, "Then let's beat him up." Naruto, "Damn it." Naruto rubbed his fist and threatened fiercely, "If you don't leave, I will definitely teach you a lesson." "He wants to beat us up, brother." "Idiot, then make a move before him." Big sister said that this is called striking first to gain the upper hand. "As expected of my brother." As soon as he finished speaking, Fujin instantly approached Naruto's side. His right fist came down from above and smashed towards Naruto's head. Naruto dodged. Rumble. The wind god's fist smashed into the ground, and the monstrous force instantly destroyed the ground. With the fist as the center, the ground within a 5-meter radius instantly collapsed, and the aftershock quickly spread in all directions. Naruto's face turned pale. What great strength! The God of Thunder jumped up and jumped in front of Naruto, punching towards Naruto's stomach. Naruto's hands formed a seal. Multiple shadow clone technique. Bang 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 bang, clouds of smoke exploded in the air, and dozens of Naruto shouted at the same time, "Damn it! I'm going to get serious." After that, dozens of Naruto rushed up at the same time, surrounding the God of Thunder and Fujin, and smashing their fists. Dozens of Naruto's fists hit the God of Thunder and Fujin's stomach head-on. The God of Thunder scratched his head and said naively, "So itchy. Big brother." The God of Wind was also confused. There are so many of them, which one is the real one? Hinata couldn't stand it anymore. Naruto really didn't grow at all. But even so, if Naruto was serious, he might be able to turn the tables with Rasengan. Hot-blooded protagonists couldn't be measured by common sense. "Yo. Naruto, long time no see." Hinata stood on a tree and waved at Naruto with a gentle smile on her face. Hinata?" Naruto was stunned at first, then he said in surprise, "Hinata, why are you here?" As he spoke, Naruto also deactivated the shadow clone technique. Hinata explained, "Aren't you and the horny immortal in trouble? Master Naruto sent me to help you." The God of Wind and God of Thunder walked up to Hinata and said obediently, "Big sister." Naruto was stunned. "They are?" Hinata chuckled and said, They are my teammates, bodyguards, followers. In short, they have a lot of identities. It's a long story. Naruto. Hinata's heart stirred, and she turned to look into the distance. The horny immortal is back. I'll explain everything when he gets here. Ah. Naruto looked at Hinata with a curious expression. Hinata, you can detect the horny immortal without rolling your eyes? Of course. Hinata said smugly. I've become a lot stronger recently. Naruto rubbed his fists and said, Hinata, why don't we have a fight? Hinata was dumbfounded. He pointed at his own nose and said, You and me? What did you go through? Why are you so arrogant? Naruto nodded excitedly. After cultivating with the horny immortal for so long, I also want to test my strength. Hinata stuck out his tongue and complained, But you can't even defeat my followers. Naruto was not convinced. I wasn't serious just now. If I were serious, they would definitely not be my match. Thud. Hinata jumped down from the tree and waved at Naruto. He smiled and said, Then I'll show you. Naruto was excited. He punched his left palm with his right fist and shouted, I'm going. After that, Naruto formed a seal with his hands and shouted, Multiple shadow clone. Hinata had already approached Naruto silently. He looked up at Naruto and said calmly, You've entered my 8 trigrams domain. Gentle fist technique, 64 palms of the 8 trigrams. Hinata decided to test the new technique he had prepared for Kakashi on Naruto. 8 trigrams 2 palms, bang. Bang. Hinata hit Naruto with his right palm and healed Naruto's injury with his left palm. For palms. 2 kidney strikes. 2 healing. After a set of 64 palms, Hinata hit Naruto 32 times with kidney strikes and healed Naruto 32 times with yin-yang technique. After being hit by Hinata's 64 palms, Naruto was not injured at all except for flying backward. However, Naruto's face turned purple. Even though his abdomen did not hurt at all, Naruto still held his stomach. His face was hideous and he could not get up for a long time. The corners of his mouth trembled, and he couldn't even utter a complete sentence. Jiraiya stood in the forest and witnessed everything that had just happened. Jiraiya's eyes twitched. He swore in his heart that he would never tease Hinata again. Otherwise, that part of his would lose its function. Even if there were no physical injuries, there would be psychological trauma. At this moment, Jiraiya suddenly felt that Tsunade's fist was so cute. Although one punch from Tsunade would break his bones and tendons, if he was hit by Hinata's 64 palms with kidney strikes and healing, Jiraiya felt that he would have to say goodbye to those beauties in the future. Poor Naruto. Chapter 278. Jiraiya walked out of the woods and couldn't help but glance at a certain part of Hinata's body. He teased, It's only been a few months since I last saw you. I didn't expect you to grow so fast. Hinata didn't notice Jiraiya's wretched eyes. He humbly replied, Yes, I have indeed made some progress recently. Naruto stubbornly got up from the ground. He first glanced at Hinata as if he had seen a scourge. He instantly withdrew his gaze and looked left and right. Anyway, he didn't dare to look at Hinata again. Lecherous immortal. What are the ancient ruins you encountered? Hinata went straight to the point. Speaking of which, Hinata was also quite curious about the ancient ruins that Black Zetsu had created. When he asked Black Zetsu before, Black Zetsu was also vague. In any case, he refused to tell Hinata the truth. Jiraiya walked over, recalled, and said, Some time ago, I was in the wild guiding Naruto's cultivation. Naruto complained, I'm the one who cultivated by myself. Jiraiya coughed softly, glanced at Naruto, and scolded with a serious expression. Shut up. We are talking about business. Naruto. Jiraiya continued. Under a cliff, Naruto used Rasengan to attack the mountain wall. Unexpectedly, the mountain wall collapsed and all of a sudden, revealing the cave inside. Naruto entered the cave to check, but the natural energy in the cave was extremely violent. Naruto lost control of his emotions, and even Nine Tails almost exploded. Fortunately, this immortal arrived in time. Otherwise, Naruto would have died in the cave. Hinata nodded and asked, Then what happened? Jiraiya's expression was grave as he said in a low voice. Later, Naruto and I wanted to explore the cave, but the cave was very strange and full of danger. We only saw some written records on the outside. At this point, Jiraiya said proudly, "This immortal is well versed in both ancient and modern times. With one look, I can tell that it's an ancient language. That cave should be an ancient ruin. It's very likely that some ancient secret events are recorded inside." Turning to Hinata, Jiraiya continued, "Hinata, you should also know that since the birth of ninja, due to the ninja confidentiality regulations, a lot of history has been vague. Even Shinobu doesn't have many relevant records. The discovery of the ancient ruins might allow us to understand some historical truths." Hinata nodded in understanding. Not to mention that the history of the ninja world has been tampered with by Black Zetsu. The ninja confidentiality regulations has made a lot of truths buried in history. In the original story, the ninjas of the Mist Village didn't even know the abilities of the second Mizukage, including the history that Hinata learned in the ninja school. A lot of it has been tampered with, and most of it has been concealed. Some of it was done by Black Zetsu, and some of it was done by the ninjas themselves. Hinata said, "Indeed. The ancient ruins can let us know some ancient secrets, so that we can better understand the ninja world, and find the real reason for the chaos in the ninja world." Jiraiya nodded. "Yes, I think so too. I have been traveling the ninja world for many years, trying to find the true meaning of peace and the source of hatred. It's just," Naruto looked at Hinata and Jiraiya with a puzzled face. For Naruto, he may not even know the meaning of history. Hinata asked curiously, "Lascivious sage, didn't you see some written records at the entrance? What was written on it?" This, Jiraiya was embarrassed, and stiffly changed the topic. "It's late now. Hinata, let's find a place to stay first, and wait until tomorrow morning to explore the ancient ruins." Hinata looked up at the sky. "Lascivious sage, it's still morning." "Ahem." Jiraiya coughed and said, "Ah, is that so? Then let's not delay, let's go quickly." Hinata also didn't have the heart to reveal the truth. After all, Jiraiya was already very old, and it was better not to hurt his self-esteem. After greeting Hinata and Naruto, Jiraiya said, "Let's go." The entrance of the ancient ruins wasn't far from the place where Naruto was practicing, and after 10 minutes, Hinata and the other 4 arrived at the entrance of the ruins. Hinata looked inside the cave, but it was dark and he couldn't see anything clearly. Even the ability of nature perception was hindered. Hinata and Jiraiya looked at each other, and Jiraiya explained, "The natural energy in the cave is very chaotic and extremely large, as if the whole mountain is connected into a whole." Hinata's face was dignified. Black Zetsu was really capable. The entire cave was filled with chaotic natural energy, and under nature perception, the whole mountain was a whole of natural energy, and it was impossible to perceive the specific situation inside the cave. Jiraiya continued, "It's relatively safe at first. Let's go in and take a look." Hinata nodded. "Wind God, Thunder God, you two guard the entrance." "Yes, big sister." Jiraiya looked at the 2 fat men and laughed. "I didn't expect the 2 of you to be released." His gaze turned to Naruto and Hinata. "Let's go." Jiraiya set up a torch and led Naruto and Hinata into the cave. Byakugan. Hinata activated Byakugan, and in a world of black and white, he could roughly see some things. Although Byakugan's vision was somewhat obstructed, Hinata's eye power had been strengthened, and he could clearly see the inside of the cave. Lecherous Immortal. The entire cave is a huge maze, and the presence of natural energy will cause those who enter the cave to fall into chaos, causing them to lose themselves in the cave. The center of the mountain is empty, and if we continue forward, we'll see a huge crater, and the bottom of the crater is magma. It's a bit like a volcano, but there's no crater at the top. Jiraiya nodded. Now that they had a general understanding of the situation, the next step was to explore. Naruto's expression suddenly became twisted, as if he was enduring extreme pain. Jiraiya said gravely, "Naruto still can't withstand the chaotic natural energy, and it wasn't this fast last time. The natural energy in the cave is even more chaotic." Hinata turned to look at Naruto. Naruto's current situation was somewhat similar to Yugo's. Both of them had been disturbed by the natural energy, and their minds had been muddled. However, the natural energy in this cave was clearly more chaotic and violent, and those who had never cultivated immortal techniques had no right to take a step into this place. Hinata placed a hand on Naruto's body, and asked with concern, "Naruto?" Naruto's eyes regained consciousness and he nodded. "Thank you, Hinata, I'm fine now," Jiraiya said solemnly. "Naruto, why don't you go out first?" Naruto shook his head and said firmly, "No. We've already come this far, and if I don't see it with my own eyes, I won't be able to accept it." Hinata consoled. "It's all right. I can still take care of Naruto for now. And if there's any danger later, I'll let Naruto go out." Jiraiya glanced at Naruto with a resigned expression. "That's the only way." Chapter 279. That's it. About 20 meters deep into the cave, Jiraiya pointed to a stone wall and said, "Hinata, look, this is the ancient text." Hinata turned his head and looked. The ninja school doesn't teach the ancient text, but Hinata learned some in the Hyuga family. Jiraiya, a civilian ninja with no background, certainly doesn't understand the ancient text. However, he has been traveling around for many years, and he can be considered to be knowledgeable, so he knows some of it, but he doesn't know what it means as a whole. Hinata took out the small book he carried with him, and prepared to record and translate it. Jiraiya looked at him curiously. Aware of Jiraiya's little movements, Hinata turned the small book to the page where Jiraiya was recorded. It was recorded that one of the Sannin, the great toad Sannin of Mount Myaboku, Jiraiya-sama, owed Hinata 2 big meals. In addition, there are some dark history of Jiraiya. For example, Jiraiya once tried to peep Hinata taking a bath, tried to get Hinata drunk, and tried to do something bad and so on. In addition to some real people and events, there were also some that were made up by Hinata herself. It is also specifically noted that Hinata was only 12 years old at that time. Jiraiya was sweating. If this small book is obtained by someone in the future, then his reputation as Jiraiya-sama will be ruined. Hinata looked up and sneered at Jiraiya. Jiraiya awkwardly looked away and whistled, as if he didn't know anything. Humph. This small book contains a lot of dark history of Konoha's ninjas. One day, Hinata would settle the score with them one by one. Hinata recorded the ancient words on the stone wall and analyzed. Looking at the appearance of this stone wall, it seems to be quite old. Jiraiya nodded and said, "Yes." "Hinata, do you know what's written on it?" Hinata nodded and explained. "It records some things about the immortal of 6 realms." Before Hinata could finish, Jiraiya exclaimed, "The immortal of 6 realms?" Looking at Jiraiya in surprise, Hinata asked curiously, "What's wrong? What's wrong with that?" Jiraiya shook his head and said, "I didn't expect the 6 paths immortal to really exist. I always thought he was just a legend." "That's not right, right?" Hinata was a little curious. Jiraiya had seen the Toad Sage of Mount Myaboku. It stood to reason that he should know about the immortal of 6 realms. Although the Toad Sage was so old that it was difficult for him to speak, Mount Myaboku should have records about the immortal of 6 realms. Maybe Jiraiya wanted to hide something. Jiraiya turned to Hinata and asked curiously, "What's wrong? What did you find?" Hinata shook his head and said, "Nothing." Naruto said with a bitter face, "Who is the immortal of 6 realms?" No one paid attention to him. Jiraiya asked, "Hinata, what's written on it?" Hinata explained, "It's about the immortal of 6 realms who founded ninja, then got married and had children. His 2 sons were Indra and Azura. In the end, the immortal of 6 realms chose Azura as the successor of ninja. After the death of the immortal of 6 realms, Indra and Azura had a great battle. It's recorded that Indra was abandoned by the immortal of 6 realms because he opposed some of his actions." Jiraiya frowned and said, "Opposed some of 6 realms' actions? What did the immortal of 6 realms do?" Hinata shook his head and said, "It's not recorded. I don't know." Jiraiya pondered for a moment and said, "The natural energy ahead is more chaotic." Naruto, Naruto said firmly, "I still want to go forward. Even an idiot would know that this relic was unusual. Hinata looked at Jiraiya and said, I can still take care of Naruto. Jiraiya pondered and said, then let's go deeper together and see what's the real deal here. The road in the cave was like a huge maze. With the insight of the Byakugan, Hinata and the other two continued to go deeper and deeper. After a few hundred meters, a deep pit with a diameter of several hundred meters appeared in front of Hinata and the other two. In the deepest part of the pit, there was boiling magma. The scorching air in the dense environment made Hinata and the other two breathless. Hinata reminded them, be careful, there's poison in the air. With that said, Hinata took out 3 detoxification pills from the ninja tool bag. He took one himself and gave one to Naruto and Jiraiya. Although there were no traps in the cave, it was full of chaotic and violent natural energy. Ninjas who have not practiced senjutsu could not step in at all. Moreover, there was poison in the air and the magma. Even if a ninja of Jiraiya's level entered rashly, even if he didn't die from the natural energy, he would still be affected by the poison. Jiraiya looked around and wondered, that's it? Hinata also had some doubts. Black Zetsu had been so mysterious for so long, and in the end, he had only made an ambiguous record. Looking at Naruto, Hinata has been helping Naruto resist the natural energy, and even Jiraiya was affected by it a lot. Since Black Zetsu used natural energy to set up this trap, then Black Zetsu's means should also be natural energy? Thinking of this, Hinata gave up resisting. The chaotic natural energy invaded the bodies of Hinata, Naruto, and Jiraiya in an instant. Jiraiya didn't enter Sage mode, so he obviously couldn't resist this kind of energy. This is. In a wooden house, 6 Paths Sannin was sitting in the main position, while Azura and Indra were kneeling below. Indra looked excited and was arguing with 6 Paths Sannin about something. Although 6 Paths Sannin looked indifferent, Azura was angrily looking at Indra and was fiercely arguing with Indra. From the picture, 6 Paths Sennin's eyes were obviously Rinnegan. Although Azura's eyes didn't show anything, Indra's eyes were scarlet red Mangekyo Sharingan. This is Genjutsu. Hinata instantly judged that this was a genjutsu caused by the natural energy invading the body, causing the chakra in the body to become chaotic. This is Black Zetsu's arrangement? Isn't it too simple? Hinata felt that since he could see that this was genjutsu, then Jiraiya could certainly see it too. Hinata didn't rush to break the genjutsu. Instead, he glanced at Naruto and Jiraiya with Byakugan Sai power. Of course, Naruto was foolishly caught in the genjutsu, but Jiraiya also didn't break the genjutsu. Through the insight of Byakugan, Hinata found that the chakra in Jiraiya's body was very chaotic. Did Jiraiya want to see the content of the genjutsu, or couldn't break the genjutsu? Hinata didn't know for the time being. Why are you doing this? A voice suddenly appeared in the genjutsu. It was Indra's voice. Indra glared at 6 Paths Sannin and said angrily, Father, you sealed grandmother, even uncle left you, what is all this for? Even if you get the Jubi, you can't get the ability of immortality. After you die, the Jubi will become the source of chaos in this world. Azura angrily said, Brother, father is doing this for ninja sect. As long as the Jubi is divided into 9-tailed beasts, they can't cause damage to the world. You and I have the ability to stop the tailed beasts. Chapter 280. But even so, what can you do? Indra glared at 6 Paths Sannin and asked with dissatisfaction, Father, you sealed your mother in order to get the ability of immortality, and uncle left you, but what did you get in the end? Not only did you not get anything, but you lost everything because of it. Azura scolded, Brother, how can you talk to father like that? Father did all this for the sake of ninja sect, for the sake of real peace in the world. 6 Paths Sannin finally spoke. Whether the past was right or wrong, it's all in the past. Indra, we should look to the future. Humph. Indra seemed to be too lazy to listen to 6 Paths Sannin's explanation. He snorted and left. What happened next was that 6 Paths Sannin gradually aged until he died. Before he died, he divided a mass of chakra into 9-tailed beasts. And as Indra expected, the 9-tailed beasts brought an unprecedented disaster to the world. Azura was busy rescuing people everywhere, But Indra discovered something more secret at this time. It turned out that there were more powerful enemies outside the ninja world. At this time, there was no sound. Hinata could only see a few images flashing quickly. Until the final battle between Azura and Indra. Indra looked at Azura and shouted, "Azura! Look at the world today. It's not what we wanted it to be. The hatred between ninjas has been born, and the future of the world will be plunged into endless war. Azura! Wake up!" Azura stubbornly said. "I will stop all this from happening. Even if I can't stop it, someone in the future will be able to do it." Indra angrily said. "You are the same as father, so stubborn. The development of ninja sect is wrong. Ninjas will go astray because of great power. What they need is unified management and a perfect system. Azura, let's work together. Let's unify the world and make a reasonable system together." Azura was enraged when he heard that and said, "Big brother, I've been investigating you all these years. You betrayed father. You want to resurrect grandmother. You want to use grandmother's power to steal the world. You are the one who has gone astray. I will stop you," Indra roared. "What do you know? You should be very clear about the origins of our race. Outside of this world, there are even more powerful enemies. Grandmother is also fighting against those enemies. Other than grandmother, no one is their match. 1,000 years later, they will descend upon this world." Azura's face was ferocious. He looked at Indra and said coldly, "These are just lies that grandmother used to deceive the world. There is no such enemy." What followed was a great battle between Azura and Indra. In the end, Indra died in battle and Azura was seriously injured. And this cave was Indra's final resting place. Hinata had seen everything. Black Zetsu's plan was still feasible. Through the dispute between Azura and Indra, it led to the story of Otsutsuki Kagaya. Moreover, this kind of ambiguous story was more likely to attract people to investigate further until they discovered the falsified historical truth. People might not believe some things easily, but if it was the truth that they found out through their own efforts, they would believe it unconditionally. The history of the ninja world itself was forged by Black Zetsu. As long as Black Zetsu slightly changed something, it was enough to turn it into real history. Six Paths Sun Nin sealed his mother because of his greed for the immortal ability, and Indra investigated the truth, so he wanted to stop all this. However, Azura inherited the will of Six Paths Sun Nin. He stubbornly believed that those were just lies that grandmother used to deceive the world, and firmly believed that the development of ninja sect was correct. Although Indra has the Sharingan of the Uchiha clan, Jiraiya, who has personally experienced the darkness of the ninja world, may choose to believe in the idea that ninja sect is wrong. In the belly of the mountain, the chaotic natural energy still existed, but Hinata, Naruto, and Jiraiya have already escaped from the genjutsu. Jiraiya's eyes were deep and said with a complicated tone, "I didn't expect. This is the place where my brother Indra is buried, so there is such a huge amount of natural energy here. Because Indra's will exists in the natural energy, we can see all of this." Naruto looked up at Jiraiya. Even Naruto, who has always been carefree, lost his smile at this time. "Lecherous Sun Nin, is all of this true?" Jiraiya slowly shook his head and said lightly, "Let's go out first and talk about it." After leaving the cave, Jiraiya found a hotel in a nearby town. After sending Fujin and Raikami to rest, Hinata, Naruto, and Jiraiya gathered together and discussed what they saw today. Jiraiya sat on the floor and said with a dignified face, "From the genjutsu in the cave, we can roughly get a few key points. The origin of the Sage of the Six Paths, the power of immortality, the dispute between Indra and Azura, and the enemy outside the world." After a pause, Jiraiya continued to analyze. The origin of the Sage of the Six Paths may be related to the enemy outside the world. This is information that we can't understand for the time being. And the power of immortality that Indra mentioned is probably referring to the Ten Tails. Before the Sage of the Six Paths died, he divided the 10 tails into 9-tailed beasts. This is the origin of the tailed beasts. The tailed beasts have existed for many years. It makes sense to say that they are immortal. At this point, Jiraiya turned to look at Hinata and said in a deep voice, "And we can confirm this point now." Hinata nodded. "Byakugan. Through the power of the Byakugan, Hinata pretended to communicate with the Nine Tails, and then explained to Jiraiya. Nine Tails has admitted that the 10 Tails does exist, and the nine-tailed beasts do come from the 10 Tails. But the 9 Tails was created by the Sage of the Six Paths, so it has a lot of feelings for the Sage of the Six Paths. As for ninja, whether the existence of ninja is correct or not, this is a topic that Jiraiya deliberately avoided. Because he himself is a ninja, a member of the ninja sect. Denying the ninja sect is the same as denying himself. Hinata continued, whether the system of ninja is correct or not, this is a topic that has been debated for thousands of years in the ninja world. But the founding of Shinobu by the first Hokage did bring peace to the land of fire. If the world can be unified, perhaps the world will also be peaceful because of this. Jiraiya frowned and said in a deep voice, Hinata, your idea is very dangerous. Hinata retorted, lecherous sage, your current idea is the same as Azura's. Jiraiya was silent when he heard this. In the previous genjutsu, Jiraiya put himself in Indra's position, and indeed thought that Indra's idea was reasonable. But in reality, when Hinata put forward Indra's idea, Jiraiya instinctively wanted to refute. Hinata hit the nail on the head and said, lecherous sage, don't let the rules of the world affect your judgment, and don't be brainwashed by some things. We need to know the truth. Serious face. Chapter 281. Jiraiya's face was extremely serious, and his heart was very conflicted. The legend of Hagoromo Sannin has always been circulating in the ninja world. And today, many people think that Hagoromo Sannin is just a legend. With the passage of time, the story of Hagoromo Sannin has been exaggerated and gradually evolved into a myth. However, for Jiraiya, who has been to Mount Myaboku, he knows that all of this is true. The idea and system of Hagoromo Sennin's creation of shinobi has gradually become unknown. But there is no doubt that shinobi has had a profound impact on today's ninja world. Jiraiya's understanding of the history of the ninja world is limited to the ninja village period and the former warring states period. Moreover, many historical facts of the warring states period were concealed by ninjas at that time because of the ninja secrecy system. But the hatred between ninjas is real, and ninjas have been killing each other for countless years because of this hatred. If the cause of all of this is because of Hagoromo Sannin, then it is necessary to understand the historical truth of the ninja world. Years of experience in ninja career told Jiraiya that he has fallen into a huge conspiracy. This intuition is not without reason. Although this experience has no traces of man-made traces, all of this is too much of a coincidence. Jiraiya has performed nearly 2,000 missions in his life, and has seen all kinds of conspiracies, and when he left Shinobu to travel around the world, he has also experienced countless people and things. If a thing is too much of a coincidence, and everything is whitewashed perfectly, then it is very likely that this thing is man-made. The place where Indra fell evolved over time, forming a natural cave, and then it was accidentally broken by Naruto, and finally, Hinata, Naruto, and Jiraiya saw a piece of ancient history, and it was a very important piece of history. All of these experiences told Jiraiya that someone is planning a huge conspiracy, and this conspiracy may overturn the ninja world. Jiraiya, Naruto, and Hinata have been targeted by the other party, and they have become targets that the other party wants to use. After a calm analysis, Jiraiya made two judgments. If everything is just a coincidence, then the hatred of the ninja world was born from Hagoromo Sennin's shinobi sect. Hagoromo Sennin's mother, the enemy outside the ninja world. These are all mysteries that must be solved. But if everything is man-made, then the purpose of this person is also very clear. He wants to target Hagoromo Sennin's mother. The opposite camp of Hagoromo Sennin's mother and Hagoromo Sennin's mother, and Hagoromo Sennin's son Indra, combined with Hagoromo Sennin's plot is a conspiracy. The 9 bijou came from the Jubi, and the organization that wants to collect them is the Akatsuki. This old man's shinobi is Sis. This old is this idiot like olds. This old. S is S. Black Zetsu's layout in the cave is to attract Jiraiya to continue to investigate. The legend of Hagoromo Sannin in the ninja world has always been positive, and Shinobu's prejudice against Uchiha has been long-standing. Indra has a pair of Manjikyu Sharingan, and Shinobu doesn't have a good impression of Indra, let alone believe Indra's words. So if you want Jiraiya to believe all this, you must come up with real evidence, not just based on the content of Genjutsu. Hinata and Black Zetsu's real purpose is to whitewash Otsutsuki Kagaya. As long as Otsutsuki Kagaya's sin is reduced in history, then everything else doesn't matter whether it's good or evil. Shinobi has been developing for thousands of years, and for such a long time, everything can change. Indra's descendants became evil, and Asura's descendants became righteous. However, for Jiraiya, all of this is just history, and what Jiraiya wants to create is a peaceful future. Therefore, it doesn't matter whether history is good or evil. What's important is the choice of the future. Black Zetsu attracted Jiraiya to continue to investigate. Perhaps he wants to throw out the only light in the 1,000 years of darkness of the ninja world. And this light is Otsutsuki Kagaya. Because the resurrection of Otsutsuki Kagaya can't be washed clean, so Black Zetsu can only whitewash Otsutsuki Kagaya's history. As for the 1,000 years of hatred and killing, and the twisted system of shinobi, all of these can be piled on Hagoromo Sannin and his sons, including the 4 shinobi world wars. It was also planned by Uchiha Madara. Uchiha Madara wants to be the next Hagoromo Sannin, not the next Otsutsuki Kagaya. After thinking about this, Hinata didn't rush to whitewash or blacken anyone, but followed Jiraiya's thoughts and said, "What Sannin said is right, but what is the purpose of organizations doing all this? Their goal is the 9 tails in Naruto's body. Could it be that they want Naruto to know all of this and hand over the 9 tails himself? That's too naive." Naruto was a little confused, and he had to wait for Jiraiya to explain it to him in detail to understand all of this. Jiraiya said solemnly, "In short, whether this is done by organizations or not, I will keep an eye on the organizations and trace the truth of history by the way." Hinata said seriously, "I will also investigate. After returning this time, I will ask Naruto-sama to check the information of Shinobu. Maybe there will be some records in the Senju, Uchiha, and Hyuga clans." Jiraiya nodded slightly and analyzed. In the previous Genjutsu, the conflict between Indra and Hagoromo Sannin came from Hagoromo Sennin's mother. This person may be the key. Hinata looked at Jiraiya and asked curiously, "Sannin, what do you think?" Jiraiya guessed. From the current point of view, the establishment of ninja sect has indeed made ninjas full of hatred. But whether the source of hatred is Hagoromo Sannin or something else, we can't be sure for the time being. Hinata nodded. Jiraiya continued. And Hagoromo Sennin's mother is the source of the conflict between father and son, and also the source of the Jubi. About this I have to go to Mount Myaboku to ask. Hinata suddenly became nervous. There is no doubt that Mount Myaboku rejects Otsutsuki Kagaya. And in Hinata's view, the source of the conflict between the 3 holy lands and Otsutsuki Kagaya is the energy source called natural energy. Perhaps the Toad Sage of Mount Myaboku really wants to save the world. But from Hinata's standpoint, if Hinata wants to plant trees all over the universe with Otsutsuki Kagaya, he must resist Mount Myaboku. To be honest, since understanding the power of the Pushur, Hinata has somewhat looked down on the Peachshur and Goldshur. But Hinata knows nothing about the star map of the universe, nor does he know how to travel around the world, nor does he know how to plant trees. If there is no one to guide these things, Hinata can't do anything. Rashly entering the universe, the biggest possibility is to get lost in the boundless space. Thinking of this, Hinata hurriedly said, "Sannin, you go to Mount Myaboku now to inquire, so that I can report to Naruto-sama." Chapter 282. Good. Jiraiya thought about it, and agreed with Hinata's opinion. Jiraiya bit his finger and summoned a toad, then gave the summoning scroll to Toad to bring back to Mount Myaboku, and then summoned another toad. "Toad Tadashi, you will be responsible for summoning me back in an hour." Toad Tadashi waved his hand and said, "Got it, don't worry." If a summoning beast wants to use reverse summoning to summon a contract partner to the summoning world, it must use a summoning contract as a medium. But if it's summoning a contract partner from the summoning world to the real world, It only needs to use summoning technique. Jiraiya turned to look at Hinata and Naruto and said, "You three have to get along well." After that, Jiraiya disappeared into smoke with a boom sound. Hinata looked at Toad Tadashi curiously and greeted him enthusiastically. "Hello." "Hello, Kashida." While Jiraiya went to Mount Myaboku to inquire about the truth of history, Zetsu also returned to the Land of Fire. At the edge of the battlefield where Hinata, Sasuke, and Sunflower were fighting, Zetsu drilled half of his body out of the ground. White Zetsu was curious. "We can't find anything here. What's your purpose for coming here?" Black Zetsu carefully calculated the range of the Chibaku Tensei and calmly said, "He's stronger than Nagato, but slightly weaker than Hamura and Hagoromo." White Zetsu was puzzled. "Are you suspecting Hinata?" Black Zetsu faintly said, "No. That's more reasonable. After all, Hinata only borrowed Hamura's power." White Zetsu was even more puzzled. "Then why didn't you tell Hinata about our plan?" Black Zetsu explained. Compared to Jiraiya and Tsunade, Hinata's experience and knowledge are too shallow. If Hinata leads, it will soon arouse Shinobu's suspicion. White Zetsu was surprised. "Isn't that better? If Hinata is suspected by Shinobu, she will completely side with us." Black Zetsu was silent for a moment and said, "You haven't been out for long. You don't know enough about humans. Hinata's power is much stronger than the last time I saw her. Perhaps she got the power of Otsutsuki in this battle." White Zetsu was confused. Black Zetsu continued, "If we join forces with Hinata, it won't be difficult to revive my mother. Even if Yui revives, she won't be able to seal mother again. But Hinata is from this world after all. She still has some things she can't let go of in this world. That's why she doesn't want her mother to have any conflicts with these people. What we are doing now is to resolve these conflicts. If we get into a conflict with Shinobu, Hinata probably won't stand on our side. Hinata's idea is very easy to understand. Hinata wants to have her cake and eat it too. She doesn't want Otsutsuki Kagaya to have a conflict with Shinobu. After all, Hinata has the Hyuga family behind her, as well as some friends of Shinobu. To do this, she must change history. Only in this way can she satisfy the greedy Hinata. White Zetsu looked into the distance and wondered. "You want to use this place?" Black Zetsu said in a deep voice. Even after so long, the eyes of the 5 major countries are still focused on this place. The 2 sides that have fought here are very important to the 5 major countries. "Oh," White Zetsu said in a high tone. "Using this place to draw out the enemy from outside the world." What about the 2 sides of the battle? White Zetsu was also curious. If one side of the battle is Otsutsuki's people, then what about the other side? Today the strongest in the ninja world is the 5 Kages, and the strong in the dark can't admit this matter. The Bijou are also in the body of a Jinchuriki. So who is fighting with Otsutsuki? Black Zetsu looked up at the sky and said faintly, "There are only so many people that I can think of." Black Zetsu looked up, and White Zetsu could only follow. "It's Hamura." Black Zetsu said in a deep voice. If Hagoromo's chakra still exists in the world, then he will come out sooner or later. So this matter can only be pushed to Hamura. And this is also a fact. Moreover, we don't need to reveal so much. White Zetsu said excitedly. "Then let's get to work." Besides Zetsu, a dozen White Zetsu emerged from the ground. Country of Rainbow, a hotel in a small town. Boom. In a burst of smoke, Jiraiya was summoned and waved to Tadashi. "Thank you for your hard work," Tadashi said sincerely. "Then I will take my leave." Boom. As soon as Tadashi left, Hinata couldn't wait to ask, "Lascivious sage, what did Mount Myaboku say?" Jiraiya shook his head and said with a somewhat depressed expression, "The great toad sage is too old, and there are many things that he can't remember. Fukasaku Sunin and Shima Sunin know a little, but it's only later. We checked some records of the establishment of ninja sect, but many of the records are a bit vague," Hinata said with dissatisfaction. "Even if it's vague, it should say something." Jiraiya explained, "In the records of Mount Myaboku, the Jubi is the incarnation of the Six Paths Senin's mother. After she was sealed by the Six Paths Sunin, The Six Paths Sunnin became the Jubi's Jinchuriki. Hinata looked at Jiraiya with a strange expression. Did he only find out this much? Or did he hide something from him? After all, the great toad sage who claimed to be able to predict the future is still very troublesome. Moreover, this toad is the key person who instigated the Six Paths Sunnin to seal Otsutsuki Kagaya. As an old toad who has lived for 1,000 years, he should have a very good understanding of history. Hinata frowned. So the information of Mount Myaboku is similar to what we saw in the Genjutsu. Jiraiya nodded with a heavy expression. Indeed. So far, all the truth points to the Six Paths Sunnin sealing his mother in order to gain the ability to be immortal. Hinata also nodded. Although Hinata doesn't know whether the information of Mount Myaboku has been altered by Black Zetsu, but with the current clues, it's still very unfavorable for the Six Paths Sunnin. Hinata asked, Lascivious Sage, is there any record of Mount Myaboku about the younger brother of the Six Paths Sunnin and his two sons? Jiraiya shook his head. No. Although Mount Myaboku is closely related to the shinobi world, it doesn't often participate in the matters of the shinobi world. Hinata didn't believe Jiraiya's nonsense. The great toad sage of Mount Myaboku has lived for more than a year. Its way of survival is obviously the same as the sacred tree. It uses natural energy as nutrients to prolong its life. It's just that the great toad sage absorbs natural energy through Mount Myaboku, while the Otsutsuki clan absorbs natural energy through the sacred tree. Hinata guessed that the Six Paths Sunnin and the great toad sage must have joined forces to cover up part of the truth. After all, in any case, sealing his mother does affect the character of the Six Paths Sunnin. And what the great toad sage wants to hide is the magic of natural energy itself. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.